Anu Nation is home to the Anu spiritual order founded by Chief Jegna Haru Yuya Asan Anu. Some of the components of Anu Nation are Anu Life Global Ministries, Enlightenment and Transformation, Sadulu House, and Osiris Life Spiritual Services. SaduluHouse.com is the school component of Anu Nation, where spiritual empowerment through education and training is emphasized. One way that is accomplished is through our monthly webinars. Our webinars are packed with foundational information, rituals, and live instruction to empower your spiritual work. At SaduluHouse.com, you can view our diverse list of topics for this year that range from meditation to sex magic. And you can also register for any of the webinars at your convenience, sign up for our introductory Orisha class, schedule a spiritual reading, and sign up for the Anu Spiritual Training course. Enlightenment and Transformation is the media component of Anu Nation. Here, you can view all of our archived shows from over the years to our current segments. They include Chief Speaks, Masterminds Monday, Anu Asafo, Thunderground Thursdays, and Foundational Fridays. You can also visit us on our YouTube channels. They are Enlightenment and Transformation, Orisha Yoruba, and Anu Nation. Osiris Life Spiritual Services is for those who are ready to take the necessary actions to bring your life into holistic balance. Here we offer consistent monthly one-on-one coaching, solutions that are tailored just for you, practical hands-on self-development techniques that will accompany your monthly readings, and customized practical strategies designed for you that guarantee positive results. Simply choose the package that best fits your needs. And last but not least, AlphaOmegaStore.com. The Alpha Omega Store is our online botanica where we offer divination tools, herbs and incense, DVDs, books, and other hard-to-find ritual items. You can also get our best-selling foundational book, Grasping the Root of Divine Power. Other great works from Anu Nation are Shrine and Altar, Solutions for Dysfunctional Family Relationships, and Natural Hair for Young Women. All great books to assist you on your journey. To find out more on how to get involved with Anu Nation, visit our websites and YouTube channels and be sure to sign up for our monthly newsletter.
Peace, everyone, and welcome to another segment of the community show, just community radio. I am Chief Yuya, and today I will be probably filling in for Sister Kim for the majority of the show. So I want to welcome all of you who have come through, who showed up, and I want to start off by giving you all the call-in number. It's 515-505-9862. I think that's 515-505-9862, or is it 605? I'm sorry, it's 515-605-9862. You know, still getting used to that new calling number. But for those of you who want to comment, question, rant, whatever, that is the number to call in at. And speaking of rants, I got to check out some of yesterday's segment, and it certainly was a lively discussion that was had. Well, I don't know if I would call it a discussion, but it was some lively talking that was happening yesterday on the segment, and it's very interesting how certain topics will bring out, you know, certain parts of us. They invoke certain parts of us, certain ideas, and obviously yesterday topic, the show, we were speaking about the Earth Day, or the Earth Day celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King, as well as the death of a prominent Atlanta area pastor, or really, I guess, a Lithonia area pastor down in Georgia. And there was a lot of things that came out, you know, in that segment surrounding that. I found it very interesting, in fact, that there was a lot of discussion around child molestation. And obviously, there are so many different ways to molest a child. There's the physical molestation, there's spiritual molestation, there's emotional molestation, mental molestation. But, when you molest a child, you rob them of their innocence and you rob them of their natural and predestined growth path. So it was very interesting that the show started to really lean heavy on just different experiences that individuals had in terms of molestation and things like that. And, it went heavy into that direction. And then there was a caller who spoke vehemently about how they utilize their children for masculine energy, children and father, in fact. So it just kind of gives you clue and idea to sometimes how something can start off seemingly innocuous, but can go in a very wrong direction. And a lot of times we are truly affected by some of the things that have happened in our lives. And sometimes we do lose our ability to understand where and how to place certain energy and where and how to place certain vibration. So I thought it was a very interesting for those who picked up on, and I'm sure many did, who picked up on what was being said and what was being displayed in yesterday's segment. You see sometimes how our misunderstandings of energies and some of our unpleasant experiences in life can cause us to have a distorted perception of how we interact with people. And of course, we can always place I believe it, I feel it. And, we can place those markers on our activities to give them a sense of honorability. But a lot of times they're not very honorable, and sometimes it takes years to figure that out. Just like you have individuals who molest the innocence and they rape the innocence of children, and in their mind, they feel that they're doing something that is righteous. They have a whole organization in North America surrounding boy loving, and then sometimes you have the victims who feel that they're doing something right because they're alleviating the suffering of this adult. So it was just very interesting, the way the spirits guided the conversation to go. And I urge you all to tune back in and peep what was really being said. If you can really hear it, some of the resistance that was brought up, there was a lot of condensation, condescending attitude. There was a lot of that, when things were being questioned and poked into. That's what I heard when I was listening, But like I said, a lively talk. Yesterday was a lively talk. It wasn't a whole lot of discussion around Martin Luther King, and perhaps it just shows where the interest is at this point. And, we're not forced to have to celebrate any national leader, if we want to even call it national. But obviously there was a lot more passion and energy on what's going on right now today in terms of some of the very violating acts that people are taking against one another, rather than what may have happened so long ago. But, I thought it was interesting, too, because as I listened to the segment, you as an instructor, you don't always give everything to everyone on the first day. You get a sense and a feel of a person's level of tenderness as it pertains to their emotional, their mental, and their growth path. Like, how tender are they? How sensitive are they? How well do they listen? How humble are they? So sometimes you start with breadcrumbs. And many of you who have studied under me, you do know I'm a breadcrumb type of teacher. You'll ask me something, I may give you half the answer, or I may give you a quarter of the answer, or I may direct you to the answer, because despite a lot of times what people feel they can actually handle and what they can actually deal with, a lot of times they can't deal with certain things. They don't have the tolerance for certain things that they feel that they do. So sometimes you have to just give them a little bit, and you have to project where you're going to take them next. Almost like creating a class series. So as I was listening yesterday and listening to some of the things that were being shared, and a lot of them were off. Like I say, sometimes as an instructor, sometimes I hear students say things that are actually wrong. And you have to let it sit out there. You have to let them exhaust that, because if you don't, not only will they resent you later, because they'll still, it's almost like a parent that's from a child. Bleeps and bloops. Let me turn my stuff down. But it's almost like a parent that's kept from a child. Eventually what happens is that the child will begin to idealize the parent. If you keep them, they become that parent that they don't see as often, or even the parent that you attempt to vilify becomes a hero in the child's eyes. So a lot of times the best therapy is like I used to always tell youth who will come to me with issues like that, about their parents. And I would say, 2 things I want you to do. Love your parents with everything you got in you. Love them. And the second thing is get to know them as well as you possibly can. Leave no stone unturned. Learn everything you can learn about them and love them at the same time. That's really all the medicine you need to give a child for a parent that may not be of the greatest character. Because ultimately you want them to still love them, but ultimately you also want them to see the truth. You see, but trying to shove an idea, this one is no good and stay away from it, that never works. So you have to a lot of times allow an individual to exhaust an idea they have, or they'll begin to put it on a pedestal that it needed be on. So a person will say, well, I feel this way about this. And if you constantly suppress that expression, then they'll really feel like they have something valuable because you've suppressed it for so long. So it must be right. It must be correct. You see? So I heard a lot of that in yesterday's segment. And, again, sitting back, some of those conversations and discussions, they help to shape and mold where this ministry goes sometimes. I listen to things like that, and I listen to how consistent it may be. And then I'll do a show relating to that. Or I'll come out with a class relating to that, or we'll just come out with an initiative that addresses it to a degree, And in fact, we are working on a child protection initiative. But one of the things that I dropped on a recent segment I called in on was that's really a job for the elder women. Young women can't do that. Mother age women can't even do it. It's the female elders. It's the AJ. It's the crone who actually can enact vengeance and really protect from an objective level. Because a lot of times when you're younger than a certain age, it's still too close to you. The wound is still too open, you see. But, in relating it to even Martin Luther King, it was very interesting because, like I said, as a teacher, a lot of times you may have a student that's saying the wrong thing for a year or two. Or you notice when certain discussions or conversations come up, you notice that's when their energy kicks in, because they still have that energy or that spirit working inside of them. And it may be something that's off, it may be something that's wrong, but you pay attention to that. Or if you're teaching a workshop, you'll notice the times when they pull out, when they start taking notes or whatever like that, when you're saying certain things, but other times they act like they don't hear you. So it gives you a sense of the lay of the land. That's that circumspection that's needed, when we're speaking about the work of a chief. The work of a chief is not to be the boss. A lot of people think that like chief means you tell everybody what to do. The biggest work of a chief is to be able to see everything that everybody's actually doing. And that's the hardest part, because you have to see things that are not being explicitly told to you. So not everyone necessarily has that ability to read people and read situations like that, while at the same time keeping a larger perspective on what needs to happen overall. Kind of like what a coach does. A coach is looking at individual players, anticipating the movements, the weaknesses, the strengths of individual players, but is also keeping their eye on the championship, saying, okay, well, I see what everyone is doing. And then also the coach is looking to recruit, bring certain talent in, move people around. That's a chief. It's a coordinator. It's a coach. So like I said, in relationship to Dr. Martin Luther King, it was very interesting because you speak about where a person starts off and where they end up, and for me, that's always a very interesting narrative, to see where a person starts. And like I said, even when you're dealing with consciousness, the most important question to ask a person is, why did you get into this? Not what you're doing, what's your plan, and all. Why did you start this? Why did you get into consciousness? Because that will always be the guiding integral energy and principle of what they're doing going forward. In fact, there's a video that our brother Zach put out on Right and Exact, his playlist that he does for our new, and it deals with that. And I think the title of the video is Separating the Message from the Messenger. And he speaks about having that ability to really see how a person starts off and what their original intentions are and where they end up. And he used an example, or really, I guess he used an example of a discussion that I had with a caller once, where they said, that even if they found out something about me, they wouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And I told them, no, that's exactly what you should do. If you find out something foul about me, you find out that I'm not the man who I present myself to be, throw everything that I've given you out, start fresh. Your psyche will retain what it is that you need to retain on a subconscious level. Sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing. But when you find out your leaders have less than decent, because we all have issues, we all have things that we're trying to work through and get past, and we all have character deficiencies, all of us. And when you come to that pristine space where you move beyond character, meaning really you're moving beyond the group totally and completely, then you no longer need to be within the proximity of the group. So then your body dies, you go somewhere else. So as long as you're here, you need to be listening and learning, because just being here is a sign that the human condition, which can almost be synonymous to the human tragedy, but the human condition leads itself to correction and reproof. But, importantly, like I was saying, in relationship to Dr. Martin Luther King, where you start and where you end up, a lot with him changed through his work. And when I say a lot with him, I'm not saying a lot in him, because I don't know. I've read several books on him, but I don't really truly know what his motivation was all the time. And I remember bringing that up in a workshop once when we were using examples of the importance of a properly placed ego. And a sister said, well, what about all the people who struggle for us, like Dr. King? And I said, you don't know why Dr. King did what he did. You don't know why he marched and he did this and did that and did that. We don't really truly know. Maybe he just liked attention. Maybe he was just outraged by the injustice. And we can't confuse one's outrage with actually being care and concern. But it doesn't matter. That's why you have such a spread of zodiacal energy, because different energies do things for different reasons, but it all will equate to the ultimate goal at the end of the day. The Leo may do something because it feels like, well, I'm the one, I can do it, I can get this thing done. The Pisces may do it because it says, I want to make sure everyone in my network is cool. The Aquarius may do it because they just feel that sense of, if I have it, I got to give it. Every energy has its own purpose and ideation for doing what it is that it does. It has its own motivation. Even with Dr. King, his name didn't even start out as Martin. His name was changed around, I think he was 5 years old, when his father changed his name from Michael to Martin. So his actual name is Michael King, which he's still called amongst family members. But his name was changed to Martin King when his father was in Germany and he learned about Martin Luther, and he actually changed his name, and he also changed his brother's name as well, and it was kind of like, his example he used was like, it's kind of like when Saul changed his name to Paul, so it was like a spiritual journey or whatever. So he had changed his name to Martin. So, again, where we start off, where we end up, because what do we know him as now? Even in his relationships, when he was away at seminary, he fell in love with a white German woman who was actually a cafeteria worker at the seminary. And he wanted to marry her. And he brought her to his father, and his father wasn't having it. And he was extremely outraged at this. He thought about throwing everything away and quitting everything because he couldn't marry this white German woman. You see, and her name was Matilda. I can't remember her last name right now, but there was a woman that his father actually wanted him to marry. Because the father felt that the white German woman was actually below their caste. So he was saying, I don't want you to marry down like that. And there were probably some other factors in there as well. But there was another woman who he actually wanted him to marry, who he had almost kind of already arranged the marriage, which is the right way to do it. And in rebellion, Dr. King married Coretta, which the family was not happy about because they still felt that she was beneath the family's caste. You see, so a lot of times, again, where we start off is not where we end up. Who would have thought that this man who wanted to marry this white German cafeteria worker would go on to do the things that he did? And if he had that white German cafeteria worker by his side, would he have been received in the same way? Would he have been idolized in the same way? You see, so a lot of times, again, blocking someone's path to where they're going and not allowing them to make their mistakes that they need to make, you don't realize sometimes you're interrupting divine coordination and orchestration. And when you do that, the divine will usually get you out of the way, some way, somehow. They'll cut you out of the picture if you're not doing what you're supposed to do. I'm going to take a call real quick. Area code 814, you're on Community.
Peace. How y'all doing, family?
Things are well. How you doing today?
All right. This is Brother Narkia from Erie, PA.
All right. Cool.
It's been a while. Nothing much. I just tuned in, brother. Could you tell me what the topic is today?
Anything you want it to be. What you want to wrap?
Okay, well, when I tuned in, you were talking about where we were and how we got into consciousness or awareness of where we at right now. I just wanted to share that with me personally. When I was like 13, this is around when y'all remember when the first Batman came out, Michael Keaton.
Oh, the Michael Keaton one. Yeah, that was like 87, 88, 87, something like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I was at an event. I had brought one of those Batman memorabilia that were the leather ones. They were like the.
Okay.
And I was at this cultural event.
You had the mask.
I had the. No, sir. I was like 12 or 13 years old. And I went to this community event that we used to have.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a sister. She said, brother, why do you have that on? I said, Batman. I was ignorant. She said, why don't you wear this medallion right here that represents the red, the black, the green for your blood color in your land? And I never heard that before in my life. And that right there started my conscious journey because I started paying attention to things more. And I ended up looking at my Batman necklace and was like, yeah, this really doesn't mean anything. It was just for show. But that started my consciousness. Now, I already had cultural beginnings in the house, with the black afro pictures and, my grandmother and my mother were wearing the head wraps and the bead necklaces. But, being 5 or 6, you just notice that. But when somebody outside of the norm in your living conditions breaks something down to you that you never heard before, it sticks with you. Now, I've came a long way from that to where I am now at 42. bumps and bangs in Nation of Islam, Black Panthers. I used to be really on some militant kick, brother. You know what I mean? But I've learned that basically I've learned that weapons don't conquer the hearts of people, that love and understanding ultimately will. Now, you couldn't have told me that when I was in my teen years, though.
Right.
You couldn't have told me that, but I had to mature. I had to go through certain relationships. I had to do certain devious acts upon our people, like, selling drugs. And I wasn't even brought up in that lifestyle, but I had to experience it, even though I had the knowledge of self at a young age, after like 13. But I had to experience that, and then multiple relationships and things of such forth. It made it still sharpened my character. It made me see things. So when you're talking about Martin Luther King and where he was at, and not with him, but what I went through and where he was at, he was in a different place. And I can relate to that, what you're saying, because you couldn't have told me that I would be following your program, or even looking at Ifa and the Voodoo faith system, which I've been studying for like a year and a half now. You know what I mean? But I would have never thought, coming through the church, going through Islamic studies, Hebraic studies, Black Panther militancy, this, that I would be right here. And I feel like I connect with this more than anything I have in the past, even though, those were my schools of thought at the time.
Right.
And I
let me ask you this.
Yes, sir.
Because you obviously you grew up in New York, right?
No, sir. I grew up in Pennsylvania. A lot of people say that.
Why you talk like you're from New York? How much time you must have spent some time in New York?
Brother, I'm gonna tell you, I'm 16 years old. I went to a Savior's Day in 1991. That's about as much as New York you'll get from me. But,
man, okay. So you an alien in Erie, Pennsylvania. I know that. They probably all think you from New York. But
I get that all the time.
I know you
all
do.
The time.
But let me ask you this question,
that all
brother.
The time. Yes, sir.
The sister who was your enlightener, right? Because that's because from Nation of Gods and Earth, you understand the concept of the enlightener. But she was basically your enlightener. So
right.
That particular sister, what do you remember? What the age range was with her at that time?
I would probably say she was probably in her late 20s, maybe early 30s. And this is back in 87, 88.
Right. Okay, cool. So it was the older sister who was helping you reassemble that consciousness. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, older than you at that time, of course. Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. And I never seen her again after that. Which brings me to another point. One day, I was in a store, and I was looking at some bread. I just grabbed it off the shelf, and this one brother, this older guy, was like, "Man, you better check that bread. You don't know what's up in there." And I was looking at the bread. I was like, you don't know if it's bugs or something. So I was checking the bread, and this brother disappeared right in the thin air. I swear for goodness, man, it's no lie. And I ain't never seen that brother before again. But ever since then, I've always checked the bread in the stores when I buy it for different, just for the various reasons, to see if it's mold or any type of bug or whatever. But, those are just like life-changing instances where I was in the right place at the right time and connected with that energy or whatever, for lack of a better word, or and just piggybacking off of what you said, you have to go through things to get to a certain level, and also are you correct on that? I think you hit that, because I always thought that too. That I don't care if you've been in a relationship with a person for 20, 30 years, if it's not meant to be, there will be some divine intervention in that course.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're aiming to do what it is that you need to do, if you just sitting stagnant and you gestating, then there's no reason for anything to really happen. But if you have a sincere desire, it's like people who have children. I always tell people, if you want to have children, You know, like if you have a sincere desire to take care of them, you'll be able to take care of them. You know what I mean? The universe is going to open up things for you and to you where you'll be able to provide for the things that, or the people, the individuals that you truly want to provide for. I mean, I remember, you know, many years seeing today, I can't even say many years, you know, seeing certain women back in the days, man, you know, with 3-4 children, not on the system, you know, not on welfare, not getting any child support, not on food stamps. And, you know, maybe making $300 a strong or something like that, you know, and still being able to take care of their youth. You know, their children are clean, their clothes are clean, they're groomed, so forth and so on, because they have a sincere desire to actually take care of their children. So things just tend to open up for them in that sense, you know. So when that desire is there, man, a lot of things will come forth for you, you know. Absolutely.
Brother, can I ask you a question real quick?
Sure.
I think I sent this email to you, may have been like 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago, but I think that's when you were setting up the app or something like that. I don't know if it went through or what have you. And I sent this question out to a few different sites, but I just want to get your spin on this. You know, I came up in the church. I probably stopped going to church probably after that enlightener, if you will. Probably at the age of 14, because I started studying, paying attention more to, you know, black culture, and I just didn't feel the same messages in the church. They didn't resonate with me.
Okay. Fast
forward to like now, you know, when I hear gospel music, I don't think of Christ, if you will. I think of like my grandmother. Like if I hear old blues music, I think of my grandfather. And sometimes when I hear people yelling and screaming in church or gospel music comes on, it kind of irritates me to a certain extent. I'm like, I just, you know, it doesn't resonate. Could you expand on that? Why I may be feeling like that? Because I kind of got a feeling of like, you know, because I want something different, but at the same time, I don't disrespect where I came from, because that was just a school of thought at the time. Could you touch upon that for me, brother, please?
I'm trying to really understand it a little bit better. So you're saying that when you hear, what type of music were you saying just now that kind of irritates you?
It's kind of like, it's like the churchy gospel music, you know, because it's like, you know, it shouldn't, but it does. Like when I hear it, I'll be like, oh man, I don't, something inside of me said, I don't even want to hear that. I was like, this just gets on my nerve. And that's just a little engram or something that's just, I got switched on, or that's just something that's just like, ego. I don't know, because I used to didn't feel like that. Like, you know, I don't disrespect my mother and grandmother, know where they came from, even though some of them they transitioned. But you know, it's just like when people come around and they'll just try to force and turn up their music or gospel, and you be like, yes, sir, hallelujah. You know, I know that's their praise and worship, but sometimes it can just be irritating to me. There's like a dissonance. It's just getting like more noticeable and kind of stronger. I'm trying to figure out, I'm soul searching, looking in the mirror like, man, is it really that big of a deal that somebody's playing this, or is it just me? You know what I mean? Okay, I don't know if it's just the frequency of the music, or I don't know.
All right, so you remember Night of the Living Bassheads, Public Enemy?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What do you think about or feel when you hear that song now?
I think of The Walking Dead. You know, actually, because I work in it's funny you asked me that, because I worked in a mental health and drug rehab recovery. I think of those who you know, the music during that era, the music got a little bit faster because everything was sped up. You know, and looking back at that now, I can get more knowledge out of it. But at the time, it was catchy, but I was still in tune with it. You know what I mean? But I didn't really understand everything that Chuck D or X-Clan was saying. I still don't understand some of the things X-Clan was talking about. But, but I still resonate from within with that. There's a different, I can resonate with that. Some of I know that it's just a conscious choice. And maybe, you know what I mean? Like when I hear some of the music that people play that's like church and gospel, I just feel like that was kind of forced upon us. They were like Negro spirituals, and I mean, I could be wrong, for lack of a better word.
I'm gonna tell you what it is. I'm gonna give it to you right now. It's okay. You notice how as soon as I said Night of Living Bass Heads, you laughed, you giggled a little bit. And you was like, yeah, I remember that. And then you even outlined that, around that time the music spread up. See, you immediately associated that song with an era. Immediately. Laughed, you said, this is what was happening, and this is what was happening with me at that time. Now, when you listen to the gospel music, it has the same exact effect. So it takes you down memory lane to a nostalgic period. So if you listen to that music, and even if it's not, because I bet you if you listen to today's gospel music, as opposed to listening to something you might have heard as a child, you might hear an old Winans record or something like that. Or just something even older, maybe some Shirley Caesar or something, and it may remind you of your grandparents. I guarantee you wouldn't have the same effect than if you listen to like Donnie McClurkin, something that's newer, like the Kim Burrell, because music is a tool of astral travel. So it's immediately going to take you into that space that you were when it first absorbed, when your molecules first absorbed it, when it first programmed your water. So that's why when I said Night of the Living Bass Heads, you immediately went back to, I guess around that time, you was probably about 15 years old. I'm doing my math right. But when that song came out, it took you right back to that era. And there was a flash of ideas that, oh man, this is where I was. The music sped up. Yeah, the music sped up back then because that was, it was cocaine era. Everything got faster. Music got fast. Everything got fast, But now when you listen to some of that stuff and it's super churchy or whatever, it astral travels again. It takes you to a space where it's like, I don't like this space, or this is a space that I once defeated, or this is a space that kept me held down in a place that I didn't want to be. It would almost be like right now for us to hear a school bell, or to smell the smell of a principal's office, and or even detention. And things like that, it immediately takes you back to a space. It's like Pavlov's theory, so music has a programming effect in that sense. So all it's doing is it's just causing you to astral travel to a world that you really don't want to be in. You always got to understand that there are different portals from a platonic sense into different realms of existence. And some call them heaven and hell, some call them the fifth dimension. And you can do a ritual to get into those spaces, or, sometimes it's just a portal may exist in a certain space. You may go through a certain cave or whatever, and that lands you in a different dimensional shift. So music has the same exact effect in that it can open up portals to different dimensions. And different things rule, or different deities, which are basically different ideas. Different ideas, they rule certain dimensions. So if you listen to something super gospel-y or whatever, and remember, from an etymological sense, the word gospel means God's news. So you're hearing that news about that God, because the original form of it was Godspell, Godspell, Godspell. And then it became gospel. But spell means news, and God, you pretty much know where we're at with that one. But again, it was the news or the broadcast or the proclamation of that particular deity. So whenever you hear that gospel or Godspell, it puts you back into that space where that's that overlord that I spoke about in previous shows. But it puts you back into that space now where you're dealing with the sciences. Now, if you've come through different schools of study like you have, all you're being dragged back into prison. This is the prison that I just fought myself out of, man, and I got to get back into it. And then you're probably looking at people who are praising and singing, and there's almost like a feeling of disgust because you're looking at, this is what has happened to us, man. It's almost like when you look at, hey, I'll give a good example. I was watching the show A Different World a while ago, and it made me really think and contemplate about where we have traveled to since, because Different World came out in '86, and I think it went off the air in '92 or '93, something like that. But it really made me think about where we have gone in terms of our entertainment, where we've gone in terms of what is cool. Because like I remember those red, black, and green medallions. And there was a time where it was cool to wear the red, black, and green medallion. And of course they were like $5 too. So I mean, if you didn't have money for a gold chain, you can get the red, black, and green medallion and the Dwayne Wayne glasses, and you're still in there with a turtleneck. Probably some two-tone agents. you remember. So you might even throw a 3-finger ring in there if you really want to do it up. Throw a little 3-finger ring in there. You in there really. But so the thing is, all of that music and all of that, it takes you back to a space, and then there's a reminder sometimes of, man, I thought we were going to be somewhere else by now. I thought, back then it was cool. And it literally was cool. Like if you were into Africa or African studies, or if you had a Free Mandela, because back then you had a Free Mandela t-shirt on, that was like, you could, as a guy, you could practically get women that way. And unfortunately, the conscious groups have become that all over again, or they never really grew up out of that. But it was considered a cool thing to have a sense of pride and love for your people. So it was okay to wear an outfit that was red, black, and green, or to wear kente cloth or whatever, and be 13, 14 years old. So you can reminisce and think back on those times. You listen to the music and you say, well, where are we today? When's the last time you heard someone in a song say Black Nation? You heard that like almost every other rap song. I'm talking to the Black Nation, trying to raise a strong Black Nation, Black Pride, whatever. And you might hear that in the middle of a Freddie Fox song. Like you might hear it in the middle of a gangster song. Or what's the name? Intelligent Hoodlum.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But they would have songs about a girl with a big behind, but they would still say something about my Nubian queen. So it was still cool to celebrate blackness in that sense. Blackness was still a fly thing, and we're not there anymore. And when you listen to some of that musicality that comes forth today, it might be a painful reminder of where things have fallen, or risen, I guess, depending on your perspective. But it's just astral traveling. That's all that happens. When you listen to the music, it projects you into a space, into a different space. And that's its purpose and plan. There's a good documentary you should check out on that. Can't remember the name of it right now, but there was a guy, there was actually two documentaries on this. There was an older one and there's a newer one, where there's this guy, he goes into nursing homes with iPods, and he asks elders what their favorite songs are, and he basically, he makes these playlists, and he allows them to listen to these songs, obviously, because some of these people are 80, 90 years old. So, he's going back to like, Count Basie and all of these different, Louis Armstrong, all of these different older musicians. And what's happening is that as these elders are listening to this music, it starts to bring back memories that they didn't have, because some of them have dementia. Some of them weren't even physically or mentally active. They were non-responsive. So they start to listen to this music and it transports them. They're crying, they're dancing. Some of them are singing. Now that was in a newer documentary, but I had read a book years ago, and I believe there was a short documentary as well surrounding the same subject, and it went a little bit more in depth. I know that the newer one, I don't remember the name of it, man, but I know it's they have a site, I think it's Music for Seniors or something like that. But the older one, they actually did a longer study where they had a more closed and contained environment, and they found that from doing the same type of experience, what they did was they didn't just, because this was pre-iPods, they actually played music from the era of these seniors, but they also even broadcasted news reports from that particular era. So they brought them completely back to the 30s and the 40s, and they saw that people's like some of the people, they were losing gray hair. Their hair was turning its actual color again, and they found that the men were getting erections again after 20, 30 years of not having an erection. They were getting erections. They were dancing to each other, getting aroused. They started messing around, and the seniors was screwing each other. It really started to transport them. They found that even, I think, 2 cases, people's eye color had even changed. So it just gives you the transporting, an idea of the transporting power that music has, man. It's a serious thing.
It has a physiological effect.
Right. And that's why you feel that measure of disgust, because it's transporting you into that dimension where that God spell is the overlord, where it rules. And
that's true.
You killed that overlord. You climbed Mount Olympus already and killed that God. So it's like you're not trying to be back up in there. You already did the Clash of the Titans thing.
Thanks, brother. I just want to say something before I check out. I'm on the clock. About to get him on the clock. Hey, I actually bumped into your YouTube kind of on an accident about a year ago or so. I was following this one guy, OSDSI. Good sections. He was breaking down. A lot of Reese's and things like that. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And but yours kept popping up. And I was like, man, who's this brother? One of those brothers that got one of them kind of generic, if you will, type of broadcast. But the first time I clicked on to your broadcast, there was an immediate connection to what you were saying, because you touch upon all bases. I got the book, Grasping the Roots. You touch about all bases. Like, you don't exclude information that's pertinent to development. You know what I mean? You keep it 100. That's basically that's just what I want to say. I just want to give you your props, and I enjoy what you and the sisters and the brothers are doing, and I'm going to continue to keep on learning and growing from what y'all doing. So keep it up. And I understand what you were saying the other day. I think it was Sunday maybe, where you want to cut certain things that. I can see that. I can feel that, because because when we all do self-analysis, there's always things that we can slim fat on. You know what I mean? So you may all y'all be blessed, brother, and I will get back with y'all when I can. Peace.
All right, peace, brother. Thank you so much. Peace. Yeah. It is a very spectrum of topics that I like to cover. And that's really, I know it's almost like it's so sad it's really sad what has been done in terms of the blasphemous actions of certain individuals, because now I have to admit, when I say certain terms, I'm particularly self-conscious. So I was going to say, I'm going to still say it, but it's just the thought. That's what nation building is about. You got to cover many different nets and bases. And I know now nation building is it's like almost like a taboo term now, because people have used it so much to do harm. Very, very similar to like saying the conscious community. That used to be a term of pride, even though there is no community, but it was still a term of pride. And now look, so that's a form of stripping away. But what happens is, like, it's codes. It's code. So I remember years ago, brother, I used to do a lot of stuff with. When we spoke on the phone, we used a certain code, and that code was derived primarily from supreme mathematics. And I remember one day saying to him, I was like, "Yo, we need to speak a different code at this point, because they don't already crack that now." Because and this is probably like maybe 95. 90, yeah, maybe 95, 96. I remember seeing some lessons on the internet, and I said in that moment, I was like, wow, because back you have to go through a lot to get lessons, and now somebody just put them on the internet, and I said, yeah, man, if it's out there and it's known, that means the code is cracked already. So we have to speak a different language, and that goes for everything. A lot of times people get frustrated because they feel like their movements or their initiatives end up getting hijacked, and that's fine. That just means you're stagnating. So move to something else. That means you're supposed to create something else. Leave that there, and leave the carcass of that old language or that old culture, the old codes there, and let individuals think that they're eating a good meal. Let them believe that while you move on to something that's a bit more fruitful or just something that's new. You allow yourself to grow, change the rule, change the games up, or the game up. A lot of times we have a little bit of trouble with that. So, even addressing the amount of information that we address is so that people can change all the games up and kick it up a notch. And I mean, there's still some areas that I would like to get into more that I don't. And some of them are not as appropriate for online distribution. And not just because they're private, but it doesn't hit the same way. It doesn't have the same effect as opposed to speaking in person, or maybe even through just a different kind of medium or something like that. So, but there's so many components that go into nation building. Like one subject we haven't spoken that much about is archiving. And, I've touched on it here and there, but, and I want you to understand too, all those of you listening, when I'm speaking about nation building, I'm talking about family building. Because everything that's in your nation should be inflected within your family and should be inflected within yourself. So like the brother said, he said, I was real militant. I came from that perspective. Militancy is still needed. It's just that as we get older, sometimes we learn how to do things differently. And a lot of times when we're young and militant and we don't really have proper guiding and eldership, we end up just hurting ourselves. Because I've been down that road myself, so I understand it completely. I was strictly about the race war for years. I trained for it for years. I was ready for that day when the neo-Nazis finally decided to really get it on. I was ready to get it on with them. And that's where all that, when you guys hear me talk about the martial arts, and that's where all that training came from. And I've been fighting and training since before I was a teenager. So just to give you an idea of how long I've been waiting to get it on, and then as you grow older, you start to see, wait a minute, nah, man, while I'm over here learning all of these different martial sciences and fighting skills, the game has changed up a bit. Like they're catching us in a different way. I remember one time being I was in Marcus Garvey Park in Harlem. I was sparring with some brothers. And after we were finished sparring, we were working on knife technique. And because I have a lot of different rubber weapons, like rubber knives. I got rubber guns and stuff like that. That's what you practice with. And I was like, yo, we need to start doing more gun technique. And I was like, there's two things we need to do. We need to do more gun technique in terms of going to the range, but we need to work with getting guns out of holsters. That's a technique, because most of the people we're really going to have a problem with at this point are not going to be hiding a gun in the small of their back or in their belt loop. They got them in holsters, you see. So I remember brothers kind of looking at me a little funny. And then after that, I was like, yo, and you know what? The new martial arts is law. We need to learn law, because that's really how we getting hit anyway. So just kind of changing the game up, a little bit, and understanding that certain things were needed at a certain time. There was a certain vanguard. But as we get older, we're supposed to pass that information down to the young warriors and the young maidens coming underneath us so we can cover a different front. And that's how you keep the nation hardy. You keep it growing, you keep it expanded. You don't necessarily want your 60, 70-year-old men on the front line, pushing back blue assassins. That's what your young warrior class is for. But you certainly want those 60, 70-year-olds at the brain helm, telling which moves to make, when to pull back, when to go forward, what aspects to to protect, so forth and so on. So, that archiving aspect, which I was speaking about, that's something we don't even talk about. But how important is archiving? Like all this information, 500-600 shows, not just my information, there's other people too, but, who's in charge of the library? Now that's a ma'atic position when we talk about the halls of Ma'at. The halls of Ma'at, it was the judgment hall, but it was also a library. It's where the information was stored. And many of us coming into consciousness, one of the things that we first heard about was the raiding of the libraries, how our libraries were burned, how our scrolls were burned, how our information was purposely archived by certain people, but then scattered to the winds. So always understand that when people say, oh man, they burned down our libraries and all. Yeah, but they got the information first. You know what I mean? That's just not even an intelligent business decision. You know what I mean? Before I burn down the building, I'm gonna back up all your information first. So the info is still there, but archiving it becomes critical and important for our direction, for our guidance. Let me give you guys a call number again: 515-605-9862. 515-605-9862. We're almost at the top of the hour, almost at 2 p.m. And again, this is the community show. I'm just covering for Sister Kim for a little bit. But yeah, so there's so many other components to this thing when we talk about nation building, when we talk about what it takes to build a family. And, I've heard that a lot. A lot of people say, yeah, man, I really like what you do because you hit a lot of bases. And a qualified teacher is supposed to be able to do that. All right. And I'm not speaking against anyone else's qualifications or anything like that. But when you go through certain priesthood initiations, there is a gambit of information that you're supposed to learn first. And that's one of the reasons why I always studied and really liked not only the Kemetic initiations into the priesthood, but also the what we call Punt, which would be Somalia, Ethiopia, that area, their ancient initiations into their priesthoods, because it wasn't just about learning spirituality. You had to go way further than that. Like you had to learn law, you learned architecture, you had to learn astronomy, astrology, medicine. It was so many different things that you would have to learn before you could move forward and present yourself as a help to the community. That's why when we look at certain people in days gone past, we find out that they did so many different things. And people who studied under those ancient teachings in those mystery schools, they presented themselves the same way. For instance, you take a Benjamin Franklin, who was a Mason, right? And an occultist. Benjamin Franklin was not only a quote unquote inventor, but he was also an architect. He was also a writer. He was a poet. He was a politician. He was a diplomat. He had all of these different things that he did because as a part of being a part of that Masonic order and studying from his Kemetic masters, these are all the different things that they had to learn in order to create the whole man or to resurrect Hiram Biff. So it's important that you learn to be kind of a well-rounded individual. I call it the Imhotepian individual. I know a lot of people, they use the term a Renaissance man, but I call it the Imhotepian man, the one who can do all these different things, but really that's what creates the rounded individual. You're gonna get a little bit more of that in phase 2, spiritual training. I'm gonna be speaking about that a bit more. I'm getting ready I got some changes coming on a lot of stuff, but in particular the classes. I'm gonna be doing something different soon, but I decided it's about time to release phase 2. Like I said, I was waiting for enough people to get to phase 1, and we have the phase 1 challenge that will be ending around June. So some should be ready for phase 2 of our new spiritual training. But, that's a part of it. Being a well-rounded individual requires that you learn different things. You don't have to be a master of everything, but, you have to be able to present a full sensitive experience to the world. Have a sensitivity to art, have a sensitivity to music, have a sensitivity to many different areas that will allow you to really navigate through the world in a healthier sense. I saw some hands went up, by the way. I wasn't ignoring you. I'll bring you guys in. You just got to hit the number 1 when you're ready to come back. I just wanted to complete that thought because I felt it was an important one. Presenting well-roundedness to your community. One of the things that men and women alike should have and should own is an artistic expression. All should be able to write poetry to some level. All should be able to play an instrument. There's a lot of instruments in the world. Pick one, cymbal, I don't care. You can pick one of the maracas, one of the real easy ones. Because all you got to do is just dance and they pretty much will move on rhythm. But everyone should have some type of understanding of rhythm and time and timbre and tone, because it helps you to process the world better. And I'm not even just speaking about if you're a spiritualist or not. People should have a cursory understanding of law. And it's different between male and female, just so you know. So females should have that artistic expression a little bit more active in them than we see nowadays. There's nothing more sad than when you speak to a woman and you say, what do you do? Or what do you do for fun? And nothing. I go to the movies, I go shopping. That's it. Well, and I always ask, do you have any creative expressions? Nah, not really. That's a flower that's wilting and dying inside, because her natural inclination is that sensitivity. And it's no different than when you meet a man and he has no intellectual prowess. And I'm not saying that the person is dumb, but he's not cultivating intellectual prowess. You got to know something about something. Men should be studying politics. Men should be studying law. Men should also play instruments too. Don't get me wrong, but there's a well-roundedness that many of us have forsaken. We've lost. We haven't really seen the point of it. And we kind of use other individuals as our entertainment for that. I'm going to go listen to some music. I'm going to this, that. But it's hard to really distinguish between what's quality if you don't have a cursory understanding of it. It's just like eating food. If you don't have a basic understanding of how food is prepared, you might go somewhere and eat something that is clearly unhealthy, but you can't tell because, you might look at something and the oil is old or whatever, but you don't have an understanding of how food should be prepared or the environment that it should be prepared in. And the same thing with spirituality. Not everyone needs to be this big priest or reader or whatever like that, but all should have a cursory understanding of just how energy moves. It's an important part of our daily. It's an important part of our walk in our life, So yeah, man, there's so many different places. There's so many different angles that can be hit upon and that can be touched upon that a lot of times we don't tap into. And just in terms of the nostalgic piece that we were speaking about earlier, in terms of how we're viewing music and things like that, and a lot of us feel things are just being lost. Like I said before, it's because a lot of us are not tuned into where things are moving and what our purpose is supposed to be. Some of you are supposed to hold on to that old music. That's a part of archiving. If the old music is quality. But I would say this too, and I'm really speaking about the show that was done on music not long ago. What do you really expect young people to produce? In my opinion, they've done a phenomenal job. There's no more music in the schools. And a lot of these young people grew up or were born in the 90s, right? Mid-90s. Mid-90s, all of the music was electronic. There was no live instrumentation even on the radio. You see, so what did they really have to pull from to create with going forward? So the fact that you're still getting new sounds and different things, again, my hat goes off to them. I think they've done a phenomenal job with what it is that we left for them. Because at least those of you who were born in the 80s, or like the brother who called, he's 42, so he's probably born around like 75, 74, 75, born around that time period, you had the era of your parents listening to Motown and Stax Records and things like that. So you had that era of live instrumentation, real singing, things like that. So you had a lot more to pull from. But young people today really, think about it. Old school for them is like Usher. Old school is TLC. I know many of you listening might say, yeah, of course, but there's many of you listening saying, wait a minute, no, TLC just released something, 20 years ago. So that's old school. Think about when you came up and let's say if you were a child of the 80s, right? Let's say if it was 1988, 89. Old school for you was the Motown era, the Temptations, Four Tops. That was in the 70s. So it was only about 10 to 15 years back. So now if we look at today, we're in 2017, take us back 10, 15 years, that's like 2001. So the music era, and many of us know that 2000 or like 2006 era, especially of hip hop, was like the trash era. It was horrible, but that's their old school that they will pull from for their parents' nostalgia. So what else do you expect them to create, man? They're doing excellent with what they were given. They were given pretty much nothing and made something out of it, which is really what God is, right? Making something out of nothing. All right, area code 347, you're on Community.
Peace, Chief. Greetings, Ballet.
Peace. How you doing?
This is Michelle. I'm doing very well. Good. How are you?
Things are cool. Things are real cool. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's good. I'm calling to give thanks for the community and for all the things that you've been providing for us, because last night's phone call with the women was very, very healing for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I do get emotional. I do recognize that I have triggers, but it's very hard for me to digest a lot of this. And having a group of women that will really listen to you and guide you through it is priceless for me right now. And I just wanted to say thanks. Say thanks to Sister Kim and all the women that were on last night's call in particular, but all the women in general. And I'm growing, and it's hard, but I'm so happy that I'm doing it. It's like a bittersweet feel. But I also wanted to ask you a question pertaining to this, and I've been thinking about it since last night. And how is it that the events in your life, you can look at them, and in the moment, how can you spot if you're perpetuating a vicious cycle, or if it's something that's creating a better future for you? How can you have that? How do you discern that?
Mm-hmm. So you're basically saying, how do you know if you're moving in the right direction, or you're just repeating something that you've done before?
Yes.
Well, self-examination, constant self-examination daily, having that time of meditation where you honestly and objectively look at your life, that starts to reveal to you your patterns. So when you're in a situation again, like let's say, for instance, if you have a pattern, just example, let's say if you have a pattern with allowing yourself to be around nasty people, and accepting nasty behavior, nasty comments because, you may have a low sense of self-worth. And that that's a thing with you, but let's say all of those nasty people are your cousins, for instance. But in this season now, you find yourself going through the same experience, except the nasty person works at the supermarket. And every time you go there, they're rolling their eyes and saying something. Well, you start to understand that you have a theme of nasty people, that pattern that's always appearing in your life. And it's going to appear through different people and through different experiences. So sometimes where we think we've overcome something because we removed a certain individual who's just an expression of a karmic energy. We don't understand that the energy is still there. It's going to express itself through someone else or through something else. So the way we can discern that is really through studying our life patterns, number one. Number two, that's what your divination is for. Also to look at what's going on. You read tarot, to really look at, in any instance, the best divination, the best question you want to ask is, you want your cards to comment on your character in the moment. Don't necessarily, let's say if, again, you have an experience like that, you may say, okay, let's say the woman's name is Judy. You might talk to your cards and say, please tell me what Judy's intentions are in my life. Well, the fact that you're even asking the question, you're already leaning towards your historical pattern. So the best thing to ask is, please comment on my character as it pertains to how I interact or my interaction with Judy in the supermarket. And then you may find that consistently the same cards are coming up, when you're commenting on your character, because ultimately to break karmic cycles, it has to be a different character projection that you utilize. It's not about what anyone else is doing. So, divination is a form of what you would use to understand if you're following your customary patterns. Not to mention it, your emotions do give you a certain guide point, but, what phase one is about is being able to discern your emotions from your thoughts, from your spirit. And a lot of times people don't know the difference. And that's why everything I'm teaching you each one. This one moves that way, that one moves that way, that one. So you can start to get used to those voices, because each one's voice has a different resonance inside of you, because each one operates on a different frequency, in a different dimension. Just like if you're in the house and Alice is crying versus Odin is crying, you know the difference. Now, someone walking by your house just say, oh, they got a bunch of crying babies in there. It all sounds the same to them. But you know the different frequency resonance of your own children. It's like birds. That's the science of the birds. Birds chirp at different frequency resonance, which cultivate and create reality through their singing or their chirping. So it's the same thing. You get a sense of how each one resounds. Sometimes people have bruised egos, and they'll call that their spirit. They'll say, I really feel this. This is what's really working for me. This is what I've done. And I can feel it deep down in my spirit. Well, that doesn't make sense, because it doesn't work that way. So sometimes even the language that one would use keeps them locked into karmic cycles, like that. So I would say those three methods are really just basic to kind of understand what's talking, get to learn the frequency resonance of what's being said, use a lot of introspection to determine what moves that you've made in life and what the objective outcome has been. Oh, somebody's dialing on the phone. Sometimes that's a struggle for people to be objective in that sense, to really honestly look at what their outcomes have been. And most importantly, speak to elders. Number 4, speak to elders who can give you a perspective, objective bird's eye view. Because honestly, and sometimes I hear this, I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I hear this on the line with the show, with the men and the women. Sometimes people don't understand that your sickness is not as unique as you think it is. And there is a certain machine and engine that's been waged against indigenous communities, domestically and globally. So sometimes the things that people say reveal their sickness, but if everyone has that same sickness, especially if you're all in that same age class group, you're really just going to reaffirm each other's sickness. Like sometimes I hear people calling, they say, I don't really like people. That's why I stay by myself, because I ain't got time. I can't be bothered. That's a statement of a sick person. That's a statement of somebody who has a mental illness. But if you have a bunch of other people on the phone, like, yeah, exactly, I'll be feeling the same way, because people, oh my goodness, then now you're getting all these high fives. And that's the times, like I said, me as a teacher, the elder, I'm sitting back like, like these are the things that I have to work on, but I'm outnumbered. There's 30 people on the line high-fiving to that, and it's just me. So I got to figure out a way to present some medicine in a certain way. So, speaking to that elder class is critical, and being obedient to your elders, being obedient, that's key. You're not just listening and saying thanks for the advice. There's nothing more disrespectful than that. And when an elder takes out time and breath and energy to share something and you just regulate it to advice, they're giving you instructions. So I would say those would be the 4 modalities that can be utilized right away.
Thank you very much, Chief. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Did that answer your question, or are you still unclear?
No, very clear. It's very loud and clear. Thank you, Chief.
Sure, you're welcome. All right, sis. Okay, cool. So I know I said a lot, so that's probably something people want to go back and listen to. How do you know you're doing right from doing wrong? Big question. That's a huge question. And, just keep in mind that everything you're learning from that I'm teaching, that everybody in our new is teaching, starts to get you to start to move and act and think right on a subconscious level. It's subconscious programming. But to think that you're always going to know right from wrong internally, that's insane. And matter of fact, sometimes I hear people on the show talking that kind of insanity. You can't tell them anything. They know it. I got this because this is working, or I'm doing. You don't freaking know. That's why we live in a world with other people. But sometimes people are so resistant and so afraid of feedback that you really can get nothing through. So the only lessons they learn is hard-headed lessons. They got to hit walls all the time, or they just end up having a screwed up life forever. That's it. They never grow. They stay stuck. They stay in a very disconcerted position. When I say disconcerted soul from spirit, because they refuse to listen. That's the greatest tragedy. See, and that's what music does. It freezes you because it breaks calculation and mathematics. Music creates mathematics on a subconscious level. If you're doing it right. Now, if you're counting in 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, okay, let's waltz. Put your foot here on number 1, then put your next foot on number 2. Yeah, that's not real music or dancing. You're dancing by numbers or listening by numbers. But what music does is it loosens the constrictions of your conscious thought and allows you to process on a subconscious level. And it starts to reprogram you so you get a sense. It's just like when you fast for a while, or you just eat right for a while and you try to eat some garbage, you get sick because you've been doing the right thing for so long. Your intention was not necessarily to be able to discern right from wrong, but you've just been infilling yourself with the spirit of right. So now the blemishes of wrong become very apparent, very clear. Even if it's wrong that you've been doing for 20 years, it becomes very apparent. I'm going to go to another call. 804, you're on Community.
Greetings, Chief.
Peace.
I had a question for you, but I think this show is probably different. I just called in.
You can ask. There's no theme to the show.
Okay. Well, I've been dying to ask you this about just in terms of. So I've studied your. I don't want to call it progress, but like from the shows from the very beginning up till now. And one thing that kind of strikes me is that you've always been eloquent, but somehow you kind of manage to become more and more eloquent, or, you write books, your vocabulary seems to expand. I'm wondering what's your routine? How did you go about doing that? How did you how do you set up? How do you kind of continue to improve in said areas? Whether it's I know the spiritual on the spiritual level you're constantly practicing, but there's some other things, some nuances there in terms of how you communicate even that continue to get better and better. And so I'm just curious as to how you set out to do that, or how do you even monitor that progress?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's 2 parts to that answer. Primarily, when I'm speaking, there's a lot of filtering that's going on. There's a lot of holding back. And if you listen to earlier shows, that filtering was even there was triple and quadruple layered filtering, really heavy, because in my more natural and relaxed state, I actually speak a lot more abstractly than one might imagine. So, and some people who've talked to me on the phone, they notice that, like, yeah, you speak. I tend to speak in prose. I speak in a very poetic way, naturally and normally. That's my natural way of speaking. So when I'm presenting to people, I have to filter and pull back and try to speak, more down to earth and more plain in a way that people can get what I'm saying. So I would say some of the eloquence that you may experience or have noticed, that's probably just times when my filter broke, and I'm speaking more like myself. For instance, the book 14 Keys, that was a book that I decided as I wrote it, I wanted to speak a little closer to how I actually speak. So that's had a positive effect and a negative effect, because a lot of people who've read the book have said, or tried to read the book, are like, yeah, the language is really heavy, and I'm really working just to get through one page. Well, that's how I actually speak, and even in that book, I still filtered and slimmed it down. But like when I did Grasping the Root of Divine Power or Solutions, I really focused on that whole ideology that I have of speaking to 5-year-olds. And I spoke about that, I think, in earlier shows. Every time I present, I try to present in a way so that a 5-year-old can understand me. So that's the guiding principle. Speak so that a 5-year-old gets it. And like I said, I learned that just listening to Bob Marley. And that Bob Marley and Fela, but their music really Bob Marley, Fela, James Brown. Let me be honest about it. That trinity of artists, their music always impressed me in that way that a child can easily and quickly get into it, as well as an adult, because of the way they can explain very complex concepts through music and make it very simple. So that has always been, even right now as I'm speaking, has always been what I've aspired to be able to do, to take the complex and present it to children, So that's the first part. The second part of the answer, in terms of what you've noticed as the actual movement and the growth, is really just that. I'm a person who, though it may seem that I'm hard on people, it would shock you to see how hard I actually am on myself and how much I work on myself and seek to develop every craft that I put my hand on. And primarily because I really value the genius of our people. I really, really, really do. However it displays itself, I value it. And I never want to do things that discredits or disrespects it. And the more I work with our people, the more I'm exposed to that genius, the more I'm sensitive to it, and the more adamant I am about bringing out the best of it. So, for instance, when you look at many, not speaking about anyone in particular, but this comment has come to me before. A lot of people in the conscious groups, what you notice is that there is a lack of grammatical expertise. There's a lack of proper presentation, things like that. And that has almost become synonymous with the conscious community or the conscious groups or conscious speakers. In some instances, you'll find individuals will have to degrade their speech, or at least they feel they do, in order to be related to. You find this if you listen to Dr. Phil Valentine. He's one, sometimes he'll start with a bunch of mother effers and bitch just to get the crowd listening. But you clearly can tell that's not how he speaks. He's not Bobby Hemmett, who's also very eloquent, but he's swamp. He's a swamp priest and elegant at the same time. An elegant swamp priest, or eloquent, excuse me, wrong choice of words. So sometimes people feel that they need to speak that way to their audience, and that's following that modality of the customer is always right. I don't feel the listeners are right. I don't feel the customers are right. I'm here to show you what's right. You know, I remember listening to a comedian years ago, and he said that, not in a comedic act, but it was an interview, and he was saying that people don't know what funny is. And I'm going to show them. I have to teach them what funny is. They don't understand that I'm really funny. So I got to teach them. And I understood that, you know. So even in terms of our information, sometimes we think that metaphysics and conscious information from black men and black women has to come via hip hop. I got to come out there and I got to be like, you know, I got to say things like be like, and yeah, you know what I'm saying? These niggas over here, da-da-da-da-da, and that bitch Oshun is going crazy this evening, and da-da-da. You know, I got to talk like that for people to say, yeah, I'm feeling them. I'm feeling that brother's down to earth. No, not at all. Like I said in a previous show, I mentioned this slightly, but I guarantee you there's few of you on the line who have had more gutter experiences than I have. You know, very few. You'd be surprised to really, and the elder told me that last strong, actually. He said, you need to write a story on your life. You need to write a book on your life. And I've been hearing that for years. I just don't want to do it. But trust me, I haven't always been Chief Yuya. You know, ghetto experiences, I did all that. Ran with the best of them, did all that. You know, and even in those environments, I spoke to people who had a beautiful mastery over the language. You know, just because you're toting guns or selling drugs doesn't mean you have to speak like an orangutan. And just because you're black and you're presenting conscious information and metaphysics doesn't mean that you have to speak like an uneducated hoodlum. You don't have to. In fact, if you're doing as much study as you claim to be doing, then you should be reading books and works from people who do have a mastery of the language, which of course will increase your literary prowess. It will increase your ability to speak clearly and to get points out. So that ability comes through study, but it also comes through empathy. You know, and that's a warning, I would say, for you and any other brother too, especially, or sister, mate selection. I'm gonna give you a little hint, a little gem. If the person cannot write, if the person is not a decent writer, they lack empathy. You find somebody who's a good writer, you got something there. Pay attention to that. Because in order to write and to be a good writer, you have to be able to put yourself in the shoes of another person, which requires empathy and compassion. You meet people like, man, I'm not a good writer. I can't. This is a person who never puts themselves in anyone else's shoes. Just trust me, just watch it. You're going to see, you know. Mm-hmm. So the more you work with our people and do things, then you develop a stronger sense of compassion and empathy, which will change the way you communicate. This is why I try to speak to 5-year-olds, because I got to, working with my people for so long, I figured out where I got to catch them. You know, I got to catch them when they're babies. By the time you're an adult, all you adults listening, I'm just giving you information to go tell the babies. It ain't really for you. You know, we got to catch the baby. So that's just coming from doing the work, man. The more you keep your hands to the actual work, the more eloquent you'll become, the more you'll have the ability to transmit your ideas in a clear fashion, because it lives in you. You know, you're not just repeating rhetoric. It just becomes all a part of you. And in earlier segments, especially doing online shows, it changes because that format was also a bit new to me too. The earlier shows I had stopped doing my personal classes like I had been doing. So there was a lot of shifting going on there. But like I said, heavy filtering, so that way I wouldn't end up sounding like a space cadet, because I actually do talk like a space cadet. Yeah, you know. And I read a lot of Victorian era works. So that's why you read my books, you see a lot of words like upon and wherewith, you know. And when I run those words through spell checkers, one of the warnings it gives is it always says archaic language. You know, so I always have to fix a lot of the words instead of saying upon. I have to say on, you know, things like that, because I read so much work from that era that I tend to write and speak in that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. So that's where it comes from.
Okay. Well, I will tell you this, like when just watching it, I can tell you that, at least for me, your example kind of goes beyond what it is that you're saying sometimes. You know, there's another form of communication that occurs just in your example, just in the way you are, because I can tell that you're improving yourself. And because I can see the thoroughness, basically. I can see the attention to detail, whether it's in your writing, whether it's in how you speak. Again, I'm not in, you know, the organization per se, or as involved as maybe most people are. But I can assure you that, you know, that's evident. And that is something that I'm hoping people who are listening into the show, who are, you know, familiarizing themselves with your works, I'm hoping that's something that they're also seeing as well. I'm pretty sure that that's something they're also seeing. And so I just want to commend you on that. I can even tell just by, you know, from the way you, from what you've done, that you're a person who is developing himself in terms of his habits. I think one time I was listening and you said something about you go in the grocery store and you have to wear headphones, and, you know, I don't eat in a poor neighborhood, something like that. And I was like, this man is paying attention to absolutely everything. So his self-awareness, or his awareness within his environment, is very high, and which tells me that you're a very centered person. So the example, and I'm hoping that, again, because like you said, in the conscious community, you don't always have examples. It's more about sometimes the information, but the person who's giving the information isn't exactly a center or a center of expression for that information, a proper center. And what I'm seeing from you in terms of how you speak, communicate, write, everything, I'm seeing that. So I'm just curious as to how you, and you've already told me this, but I was just curious as to how you started to do that, how you've accomplished that. And another thing, you know how sometimes people go to lunch with like Warren Buffett or something like that, some sort of celebrity or great mind, and they always say, "Okay, what are your top 5 books? How many books do you have in your library?" Right. And you know, I think maybe on the inside that might be something that I don't know. Maybe it's not a good thing, but something for people to aspire to. How many books should should black men have and pass down to their children? Or, you know, what types of works? You mentioned the Victorian works and things of that nature. Maybe there is some sort of not to clone or anything like that, but maybe there is some sort of thought process that should be passed down, even some sort of standard even that should be passed down.
Absolutely.
Just in terms of the environment that we create around each other.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. You know, so maybe there's other aspects to this, but that is something also that has driven me forward. I spent a large amount of time in the corporate sector, you know, large to me, because considering the different kind of things that I've done before that and after it, I think it took a big chunk out of my life. But it was a wonderful and beautiful. I always looked at it like that. You guys are paying me to go to school, basically. And I used to look at how execs would interact with each other as opposed to how they would interact with me. And it started to create an understanding of a certain standard and of a certain codex that I wasn't being alerted to. You know, one interesting thing, I actually got into stocks years ago because I remember I was at my desk one day, and one of the execs, his office was right behind my desk. He and another exec, they would always trade stock tips, but because I was sitting right there, they would like whisper them. They would go in and close the office, and You know, like I could see what they were doing, and I'm like, what the heck? Like, at the time, I didn't understand really what stocks were. In all honesty, crazy enough, because I worked I worked in the IT department, but I started to understand that, there is a different codex. There is a different cultural imperative that's presented to different men that allows them to sustain their society. And I started looking at the things that we share and the things that we don't share. So, and how we can come again, like I always say, to the global and world market as an actual power. And in order to do that, there are going to be things that we have to learn that are going to have to take us out of our immature approach to the world and to race. So yeah, absolutely. Reading is important. And some may say, well, I don't want to read about law because this is that. I'm not going to read about politics, this, that. But you can't say that you don't want to learn those things, and in the same instance say that your ancestors invented all of it. That's stupid. So, or say that, well, Washington, D.C. was designed by a black man and it's supposed to be an emulation of Kemet. Okay, well, then learn about the building. But I ain't learned about them buildings because it's an evil. It doesn't make sense. So to really be able to be respected from a global perspective and to bring something of value where we can actually and properly compete, that work has always been at the forefront of my thoughts. So when I speak, when I present, or when I choose what sisters will present, because there's other sisters behind the scenes, but choosing who's going to do what, yeah, it's always about modeling the healthiest examples that we can for each other, and presenting the highest ideas. And that means that, it's like Rick James almost, like, we're going to be the best dancers, the best singers, the best this, but, be the best of all. If you're going to speak and use a language, that highest vibration. If you're going to listen to music, listen to the best music. If you're going to be a person, be the best person, be well-rounded so you could be that force that you were when you were called to more, and when you were traveling the world and you were civilizing the world, so, a lot of it is based on that as well, because like the example you gave, having lunch with Warren Buffett, I do have a lot of powerful people in my client list, and that allows me to see sometimes the machinations of power, how they got to where they were. I get to see what kind of family life they had that led them to where they're at. I also learn even the fact that they come to me. They have that, however I got to get there, I'm going to get there mentality. And they're not afraid of things that actually have seen themselves successful, or how success may change them. So a lot of the formula of what I present comes from some of that as well. I don't share it all, because sometimes our people are a little bit immature when it comes to things like that. Like, even I'm sure me saying, yeah, I read a lot of work from the Victorian era, I'm sure that turned people off already, because I just know, people are just silly like that. Like the video I did one time when I had on a t-shirt, and there was complaints about that. Where's the dashikis? Like, I got a closet full of dashikis and kente cloth, and I wear that darn near every day, but I wear other things too, but because I'm grounded in what it is that we got to get done here, I'm not going to wear some skinny jeans. I know what that means. I'm not going to wear some Ugg boots or some high heels. I understand where to stop. I understand what aspects to take on, what aspects not to. Just like I don't really enjoy driving American cars as much as I may enjoy driving a foreign car. And it's not just because I do enjoy foreign cars more, but it's because I feel a little awkward sometimes in an American car, so, but I'm still going to drive a car, so sometimes there's subtle compromises that you make, but you want to make sure that they make sense, so I'm not telling everyone to go out and be a part of the Black Boule, and get down with that whole vibe. But certainly we do have to expand our circumference of awareness, because we're losing people, in our conscious movements. We're losing supporters and people who are able to present certain ideas are scooping everybody up. You see that with the recent drama videos in the conscious group, and it was almost like the grassroots versus the bougie. You almost felt like school days. You know what I'm saying? Like the light skin versus dark skin. What was it? The wannabes versus the jigaboos or something like that. They call them. I don't remember the things in it, but you know what I'm talking about. And it was almost like that. But it's like neither one of you are actually that. You ain't built like that. You ain't street like that. And we don't even know if you got a degree. You know what I mean? You ain't bougie like that. So neither one of you are really that, but those individuals are scooping up people and taking large groups and flocks with them off into the abyss of nothingness. So those of us with sense have to sit back and try to dignify this process and this experience. And, you take people like Ronell from the Saw Set Society. I think he's done a wonderful job of doing that. You never hear any drama with them. Nothing. And even when they do stupid stuff, they don't put their flag up. Like I was watching a divorce court proceeding once. It was a polygamous one where it was a whole big thing where I don't remember the name of the sister, but it's the sister who's the judge. And I could tell that the man and his 3 wives, that they're all a part of a Saw Set, but they didn't put the flag up. They just said the religion that we're a part of. Even the Akan tradition, you don't see any foolishness with the Akan tradition. So we can be spiritual, we can be conscious, we can be dignified, we can have class, we can dress nice. There's nothing, we can dress nice, we can drive nice cars, we can live in nice places, and we can still have our consciousness. We can have it all. You don't have to pick and choose. You don't have to go live in an abandoned house and or expression and statement about the system. If you have enough wherewithal, you can build your own system. You could go to a country, you could go to Costa Rica, and buy up 1,000 acres and build your own space. But at the same, it's almost like the Black Panther, like what was it, Wakanda, the nation of Wakanda, something like that. But how they are in that African nation, but they still have the most advanced technology in the world, and they're still dignified. What happened to that? I'm on some coming to America stuff, man. That's really that's how I picture the conscious community really being, like, on that level. Lots of gold, lots of resources, lots of beautiful men, lots of beautiful women, and just high vibrational thought on every level. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, man.
Well, thank you, Chief. I won't take too much. I know somebody else has a question, but I appreciate it. I've been down to ask that question. I appreciate it.
Sure, man. Anytime, man. I was happy to answer it. Thank you.
All right. Peace.
All right, cool. Yeah, peace. Yeah, I've not been asked that one before, but fourth part to the answer, actually. You see how what he said, I've been watching and noticed your stuff been changing from here to there. I guess I should have mentioned that, I'm sure things will come to me later, but somebody's always watching. That's one of the reasons why I model and present things a certain way, because somebody is always watching. And every word that's being said is being accounted for. So you're not gonna hear me say certain things or do certain things, and it doesn't mean, like, for instance, in these shows I don't really use profanity, but I use profanity. And some people have a certain impression of me as a result of it. They think that I'm like a monk or something, which is fine. That's cool, because then maybe that brings out the highest aspect of who and what you are. But there is a difference between my public presentation and my private presentation, as there should be. Sometimes we forget that not only through social media, but through exploits of wanting to be in entertainment and things like that, that we've truly put our lifestyles on display and allowed ourselves to be made mockery of by the world because of it. You know, you look at even some of the reality TV shows, like they're really showing the reality of the bottom of the barrel melanin dominant experience. You see, it's not really real. Not everyone acts like that, ready to fight all over a man and all that stuff like that, or a guy. But you know, it certainly does happen. It's bottom of the barrel, and putting your lifestyle on display for entertainment is not cool. You know, so my life is not an open book. It's you know, you all don't even know the names of my children. You know, maybe one or two here, you might get a little whiff in it. You don't even know how many children I have, you know, or how large my family is, you know, because it's not for public consumption. And that's a part of the dignity that we need to regain again. You know, everything does not need to be presented to the world for the general population to consume and then move on to the next thing. You know, having our Africanhood and our dignity back is of the utmost priority to me. And that means that there is a group of people that are not going to feel me. You know, I know that. And it's very similar to the short sojourn that I spent in the church, the black church. You know, when I was in the church, I was what was called a teacher. Now, I know you say, well, yeah, you're a teacher, but there's a difference between a teacher and a preacher. So I had more of a teaching ministry. The same way I speak to you all now, believe it or not, that's how I spoke back then. That's why it was a short sojourn, because I wasn't really trying to hear all that. But I never did the hacking thing and rolling underneath the pew and doing backflips and, you know, humping the air in front of the mic and stuff. I never did all that stuff. It wasn't me. I never even tried to do it because it doesn't work with me. My voice is too loud and too deep for me to be doing that stuff. And I'm too big to be flipping and falling out and hoping somebody can catch me and hold me up, because it's probably not going to happen. All right. So I did what I knew to do, you know, and as a result, who felt me and some who didn't feel me. You know, mainly, like I've shared once, it was the elders who loved me. Oh my goodness, they loved me. And I realized this because they've been listening to BS garbage for 50, 60 years. You know, preachers is getting up saying nothing and regurgitating the same exact Jesus saves message for 50 years. So to have someone to come and say, well, let's look at the word Jesus and let's look at the idea of salvation, what that really means, and let's get into it. And, you know, who was Yeshua and why were there several Jesus figures at that time period? Which one are we talking about? And are we talking about Yeshua ben Pantera, who was really of the tribe of the panther? And why is he never depicted with the panther, but depicted with the lamb instead? And, you know, just going through it. And, yeah, there was criticism sometimes. Like, you know, you got to, and I'm like, yeah, but once you start screaming and yelling, people can't hear what you're saying. So you're not actually teaching at that point. You know, you're just making them high. And I'm not interested in that, man, because so many of them are dumb. And they're going through really bad experiences because of their ignorance and dumbness. So it's the same thing in this community. I approach it the same way. Oh, before we close, because we only got a few minutes, but if you want to call in, it's 515-605-9862. 515-605-9862. Just hit the number 1. You know, I haven't done live shows in so long. I actually forgot to do that. I haven't done a live show in a minute now. But it's the same thing in these groups, man. I think we can have the dignity and grace of Dr. Martin Luther King and his wife, Coretta, and we can have the fire and the obedience of El Hajj Malik Shabazz, of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, you know, and we can have the political and grassroots aggression of Medgar Evers. You know, we can have it all. And at the same time, we can have, you know, the funk and the coolness of Parliament. You know, we can have the mysticism of Sun Ra. We really can have it all. You know, we can project whatever we want to project, because at this point, anything we do is going to get condemned anyway by the greater society, the greater public. So screw it. Might as well do what it is that actually works and what you're actually feeling. You know, but it kind of goes to Sister Michelle's question earlier when she asked about the repeating of patterns. And how do I know I'm going right or going wrong? You find that a lot even in the conscious groups where there is a sick maintenance culture. It's almost considered cute. You know, so just to have no money is cute. You know, like, yeah, y'all know I ain't even got it. You know what I mean? Because I'm out here trying to bang on this system, family. You know, you got stuff like that. And it's like, come on, dog. Like, no, you can have dough. You can build a business. It's not always about I ain't trying to work for the cracker. You know, it's not. You don't have to. There's so many other ways to make things happen in this society, man. You know, we can present the highest vibration of all of it. So a lot of times we maintain some of that sickness, or really some of those niggerisms. I mean, honestly, let's call it what it is. You know, we maintain some of the niggerisms because we think it's cute, but also because for those who really don't want to transform and move and really see themselves as successful, it makes them comfortable. They still feel, you know, so that's why you'll see some of these guys who are 40, 45, 50 years old in the conscious groups, and they putting out rap singles. You know, like nobody, in trap music at that. Now, why are you putting out trap music when you don't trap? That doesn't make sense. It's not for you. And nobody wants to see a 50-year-old man rapping unless it's a joke. You know, that's cool. You know, there's certain people, I see YouTube videos, so it's funny. But, you know, they're dead serious. And they're thinking now they're going to have a career in hip-hop now. But it's going to be conscious hip-hop, which no one's really interested in conscious hip-hop. I mean, Dead Prez did what they needed to do. We're good now. You know, they revived that whole era. And we'll have somebody else, you know, come back and do something. But, yeah, it's just a lot of times we're not taking a healthy approach to where we should be and how we should be behaving. And we're frustrated with our lives, and we join some of these conscious groups because we weren't able to make it anywhere else. And that's why I say it's always important to find out why a person got into what it is that they were doing. Were they successful at doing something else? Like if you say, well, I'm gonna start a business. Okay, well, what model are you using, and have you ever done this before? Have you ever apprenticed under anyone who had a business? You know, so before you start saying, I'm gonna run this and I'm gonna run that, what have you ran previously? Or are you just talking to uneducated people who don't know any better? You know, I see that a lot, even with some of the speakers. They get over on that. You know, there's one in particular I look at, well, I don't look at his stuff, but I see what he's doing. And he has a pretty expansive vocabulary. And whenever he goes a little bit over, you know, you can tell he's hyper intelligent, very intelligent brother, but he goes overboard. And people see that and say, yeah, you know, he's real intelligent. That brother's real sharp. He's just that, and the third. But his character is constantly coming into question with scams and him not giving people product that they pay. As a matter of fact, some of our students have come to me about him. You know, I paid for this, never got it, this, that. I'm sure some of you know who I'm talking about at this point. But, you know, you can use a vocabulary like that and you can kind of stun and shock people who don't read. Yeah, they're impressed by that. You know, because they're not taking the time out. Or sometimes I've even heard him cite certain laws. And what he does is he does it real quick. And it'll be like real basic stuff. But because he says it so fast, people are like, man, wow, he's dropping it. We gotta get out of that, family. No, we gotta grow past that. You know, that's why I said that roundedness is learning to study a bit more and kind of round yourself out so you can really see what's being said, so you can discern properly. That's that grasping the root aspect. So you can truly discern between people who are presenting to you who have character, people who don't, people who ain't even saying anything. You know, because a lot of these guys listen to them like, you're not even saying anything. But people are getting with you because they don't know. And they're wrapped up in the moment. But that's why you're not producing anything, because you're not actually saying anything. You know, so yeah, I mean, there's a lot of conversation that we can have on that going forward, you know. And there's been some initiatives like the Mothers Rising Sons project that I had put out, I was working on. I pulled it back, actually, I got to finish it. But there was a couple initiatives. I even own, I haven't even told you guys about, that have movie lists, book lists, natural product lists, a bunch of other stuff that I got to finish working on those. But it's in response to the brother's statement about, is there like a compendium or a path that we could give that would kind of give a full experience. But, you know, again, that happens within the boundaries of a community. Because you may give your son something, but I need to know what you told your son, you see? And you need to know what I told my son. You need to know what I told my daughter. You need to know, we need to know one another's standards, even if they don't match up completely. So we'll know how to speak to one another, you know, and we'll know how to check each other's children when needed. So these things really happen within the confines and the boundary of a community. That's how you're able really to transmit those ideas, because your culture and your law, what it does is actually it transmits your ideas, your mores, and your principles. I speak about that in the 14 keys. But again, we have to have a unified and collective agreement that we are part of the same movement. We're all doing the same thing. And therefore now we can all hold each other and our children and our spouses accountable for the same things. Anyone who puts their foot in and says, okay, I'm in this. So now we're accountable to the same things. Until you really get that, it's very hard to deliver a compendium because you don't really know the purpose for it. You know, if I say learn archiving, law, politics, martial sciences, resource management, technology, so forth and so on, well, what for? Where are we ultimately going with this? What kind of individual are we creating? What mind are we seeking to create, and to what end? You know, so that's why there is our new nation. That's why there is and you know, I'm gonna give you guys something. The person who got the idea of our new nation when I first started it is a Pentecostal bishop that I know. He got the most, just to give you a clue, because I told you I started, I knew there was it was 7 of us, 6 or 7 of us, someone coming in and out. It was supposed to be, but they all fell off. But it was, our new nation was originally supposed to be different spiritual systems. That was the nation, because I always conceived all of these different groups, like the Nation of Gods and Earths, the Rastas, the Hebrew Israelites, Nation of Islam. To me, these are all nations within this nation. Some will call them tribes. So I was trying to create something where we could all come under an umbrella, which is one of the reasons why I teach so many different systems, because it was about that umbrella training. But everybody fell off. But I'm telling you, just so you kind of, you know, understand sometimes where you get it from, he was the one, I didn't even see it, because it was our new nation, but it was something, it was our new nation something. And he was like, nah, cut the I can't remember what I named it. Or it might have been the Anu Nation, something like, it was the Anu Nation. I think it was 4 letters, the Anu Nation something. And I was writing it on a piece of paper and playing around with it, looking how the A looks and how it would look on a t-shirt and stuff like that. And he said, nah, you know, Anu Nation, kind of like the whole Facebook thing. It was no, Facebook is cleaner, like that movie. But he said, and I didn't even catch it. When I did it, he said, yeah, because it's like a new nation. You're building a new nation. I didn't even catch that, the play on words. I was like, yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's how I put the stamp and was like, okay, it's done. That's what it's going to be. A Pentecostal bishop. And he, to this day, is excited. You know, and sometimes he helps me out with certain things. Like, little logos and stuff, because he does like, graphics and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I need help me with this. To help out. And he's still in the church, but he understands the importance and the value of what it is that I'm doing. And I also am able to transmit my ideas to him in a way that is dignified, which makes him kind of care a little bit about my agenda, but if at least not my agenda, he enjoys speaking to me, so sometimes we got to learn to befriend the world. We're getting ready to go into our archives in about 2 seconds. We're closing out, just so you all know. But, sometimes you find your help and your relief from people that you would never guess, you would never suspect. So just a little bit of inside information, a little tidbit, the actual finalization of the name, the stamp, and the high five came from a Christian. Now, if you want to leave because of that, go right ahead. I don't really care. And some of the logos and flyers you've enjoyed, he tapped them up for the design on everything, but I'll run it by him. That font sucks. Matter of fact, when I did the recovering for suicidal families, which became solutions for dysfunctional families, if you notice, look at the font. Any of you if you have the old copy on suicidal family and solutions for dysfunction, the font is different and the shading is different. The first one looked like a medical journal, and I did that on purpose, but I think it was scaring people away. So I said, yeah, I got to retitle it. And he was like, yeah, and you need to make it look a little smoother. And he had it was a Kindle. It was like a reading device. And he opened up his device. He's like, check this out. He was like, look at some of the books I read. And he was like, I can buy books right from the device. And it's the covers sometimes that make me buy them. So he's showing me his stuff. And of course, they're all like, here's the good news, Jesus saves. It was all those type of books. But I'm not paying attention. I'm looking at the cover design and looking at the psychology of why people pick what they pick. But he helped me with the cover. Christian preacher, you see. Now I don't give a crap about his agenda because I'm not in none of that. I've never been in his church. I'm not going in his church, But I'm working something over here, and through presentation of presenting yourself to a person properly and being friendly and polite, and not compromising on what you're doing, because I never hit anything. And yeah, this is what it's about, man. Trying to get rid of these Christian and Baptist preachers and all. And I remember talking about that, and he was like, yeah, I feel you. I'm on the same thing, The bishop. All right. I'm going to take one last call from 864 area code. Then we're going to head out soon.
Oh, greetings, Chief, man. Actually, I ain't really mean to press one, but
okay,
I'm really actually at the store. But since I'm in, I'm right along with you, big bro. You already know. I'm right. This Pedro, by the way.
Yeah, I know. A voice like this, man. You need to be doing overdubs for cartoon stuff, man. You make a lot of money as a voiceover actor.
Yeah, man. I'm actually, man. I just signed up for Castle 360 to do that, man. I gotta
here we go.
get in there and get my pictures on there.
For sure.
But
yeah.
Yeah, man. Like what you just said though about how basically the one who founded it is one of them, Christian or whatever. But I have to say, me myself personally, I still know, even though I'm not Christian, and I don't try to associate myself with Christians or nothing like that, because there's some that I still know that still have a lot more sense and apply themselves more, with family and having some type of, morals or rules for themselves, and actually take care of that more than somebody who claiming conscience, or just, claiming that they with this system or that system. A lot of them that I know mostly don't even have a family. So, like you say, I don't take nothing away from real stand-up people, no matter what.
Yeah, that's real.
Yeah.
Yeah, it comes down to that. At the end of the day, man, your system or your religion or your spirituality is supposed to refine you, and however you get there, you get there. But we get hung up too much on title, and not understanding that people a lot of times are going to they're going to pick whatever's closest to them. So you can't blame everybody for being Christians when there's a Bible in every hotel, So it's very easy to be a Christian in this place. But a lot of times they want something else. They're afraid to say it, but they'll stay connected with you because they want a way out. But they just need something a little bit more solid than another book,
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. But thanks for the call, brother. Yeah.
No problem, Keith. Appreciate
man.
you, man.
Anytime. Peace. Yeah, and I'm not telling anybody to go out and befriend Christians or whatever, but who do you even know about a Christian? When we say those terms, a lot of times we're just speaking about the pain that people have given us. So we say, I don't mess with Christians, because you're talking about a group of people. You know what I mean? Because if you go to a restaurant or something and someone's kind to you, that's what you remember. You don't remember what tradition they're working out of or whatever. And the same thing, with you. Your systems are supposed to refine your manners. And that's why I say when I hear people, whether on the shows, I'm working with them, and they're arrogant and they're rude and whatnot, you already shown me what your religion is. I already know who your God is. And I'm using the word God on purpose because you guys know I don't even use that word. The rest of us got archetypes that we're becoming, but no, you got a God. It's your ego. All right. One more call, because I saw your hand was up earlier. So 502 earlier area code.
Hi, how are you, Chief? Hello.
I'm maintaining. I'm grooving.
That's great. I'm great. I'm so happy. I just was on your website trying to sign up for the classes and everything. Mm-hmm. And I stumbled across your videos on YouTube. So,
okay.
I just wanted to let you know that everything that you've been talking about and the other sisters and brothers that come on, that it's just been like resonating with my spirit. And also, I know you're about to get off the line too. Sorry, but also,
okay.
I had a dream. I dream a lot, and then I seen my uncle, but it was your voice talking to me in my dream. And then when I left out the dream, I was handed a record, a record with music on it, and then I walked out and I had I don't know, my clothes changed, and then I appeared in red and black, but I heard your voice instructed me,
Mm-hmm.
So I said I'm gonna call, and I want to join, and I want to be a part of what you're doing in the community, and what you were talking about Sunday, to not always talk, but to listen. And
Mm-hmm.
It's just things I'm working on, and I just want to thank you for that. And I don't know how you came into my dreams, but it wasn't bad. But I just want to thank you for everything. So I feel great.
More than welcome. You're more than welcome. Sure. Thank you for calling.
Yeah.
You're so silly. You'll be laughing the whole time.
I'm sorry. I'm always laughing. I'm just smiling all the time. So.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you. I'm gonna schedule for next week to have a reading with you too, because I'm just excited about everything. So thank you.
I can tell. All right, sis. Good meeting you. Peace.
Have a good one. Be blessed.
You too. All right. Yeah, that dream thing is common. I get that all the time. People, I'm in everybody's dream. That's probably why I don't really sleep much at night, because you're also busy pulling me into your doggone dreams. But I get that a lot. And people say it's always the same thing. You were giving me some type of instruction. I get two things. I was either instructing people or I was protecting them from something. I've had people who've called my name in the middle of dreams and I showed up to protect them. So for any of you who that's happened to, don't feel weird. There's a bunch of you. In fact, I think I mentioned this last year, and it might have been year, man, time is flying. It might have been year before last. There was a sister who wanted to do a show just on that. She wanted to do a poll on how many people had me in their dream or dreamed about me before they met me. And it was a lot of people, but I guess there's some others that were kind of just shy about it, which I understand. I understand you feel a little awkward. But, dreams are my thing. So in that realm, I have a lot of ashe. So that's one of the reasons why I pop up so easy. Yuya is its earlier form, or its newer form is Yosef or Joseph. Just like when I meet people who speak Spanish, like I was vibing with this woman yesterday, to help her out. And I know she used to work in a Goodwill that I used to bring a lot of stuff to, and they closed down. She doesn't really speak any English, so she was like, yeah. I said, I hope Shell could give me your name. I said, Jose. She said, Jose. I said, basically, it's Jose. So when I'm speaking to Spanish speakers, I always give them the name Jose, because Jose is Joseph. Joseph is Yosef. Yosef is Yusef. Yusef is Yuya. They're all the same name. But remember, Joseph was the dreamer, right? In name, it means the Most High will add on to his power, will increase his power. But he was the dreamer. So I've always done that. I've always dreamt, always been, since I was a little kid, been able to interpret. And it was actually my mother who broke down that to me, about the whole dreaming and the Technicolor code, which was the chakras. She broke that down to me back in the days. And more comfortable with my extremely vivid dreams that as a child used to kind of, throw me off a little bit because they were too accurate and too vivid. And she sat me down and explained to me, why it is that I have that actual gift. So the dream world is where I get busy. Is where a lot of the work is done. But that dream had to do with you getting into divination more, by the way, sister. That's why I was your uncle. The black record, look at it as a black plate. Okay, so you stare into the black plate, you get answers. And your uncle giving you the instruction is like the messenger giving you instruction. So that was about divination. If we speak, I'll break it down to you a little bit more. But and that's the red and black. Obviously, that was the Eshu energy. But the uncle oftentimes is like a go-between between your parents, or an auntie. Because you can tell things to your aunt or your uncle. A lot of times you can't tell your parents. But they have that time, so it's like a messenger vibration. All right, I'm going to take one last call. I know I said that was the last one, but 816, you're on Community.
Peace, Chief.
Peace.
I have a question in regards to being This is Georgina.
Okay.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good today. It's just you said my name so fluidly, it sounded like, you said it like somebody already knew. That's why I wanted to know the name.
Okay. I wanted to ask a question on being apologetic, because I find myself doing things and even listening to the shows after they've aired, or if I've been on them, and I find myself feeling wrong, or feeling the correction that you give. And I wanted to know, how does one apologize, or how do you correct the feeling that you have when you've done something wrong, or it's been recognized as being wrong? How does one, kind of live with that?
Do the opposite. Send the opposite vibration out into the world. First thing, and this comes up sometimes with people, they don't like feeling wrong. Matter of fact, let me just keep it real. This comes up with women a lot. Women don't like to be told they're wrong. They don't like. I've had women say that to me directly. I don't like being wrong. Well, then you need to go kill yourself, because you're gonna be wrong. Life is about the trial and errors, the valleys and peaks. Some things you're gonna do right, some things you're gonna do wrong. And the job of a man is to be able to shine light and to show where your missteps are and where the actual path is. And that may require you to readjust, or, to reposition yourself. that's part of the problem again, and that's kind of what I spoke on Sunday, is that there's the over proliferation of ego, where individuals don't feel like they can be wrong, or I didn't do anything wrong, or they promote that constant victim narrative. They can never imagine that they actually are the problem, or that they caused the problem, or anything like that. So what you do is, once you find that out, you did. That's the operative word, did. It was an action. So now you reverse the action. Do right. So the feeling that you're having, that feeling of guilt, actions are not in alignment with the truth and the conviction that your spirit is receiving. So your spirit is like, okay, cool, now we got the right thing to do. We know how to move and function properly. But your emotions and your energy are still like, but nah, I don't want to change. I don't want to do differently. I want to maintain the same course and the same trajectory. So now you start to feel guilty, and you feel doubt, and you feel fear. And all that is your spirit disconnecting from the truth of your Ori. So the way you correct that is you got to line everything back up. Okay, my Ori tells me this is the way I should, or my consciousness, inner consciousness tells me this is the way I should be going. All right, let me put my spirit into that space. Let me put my emotions into that space. And then, of course, the actions. Let me now act in that way and in that space. And if that means I got to make a phone call or write a letter to apologize to someone, I'll do that. And if I'm unable, I certainly will send out that new mind frame into the world now, because I was sending out the wrong one into the world before. So now I have to neutralize that vibration that I sent out before by now sending out the right one. And they'll cancel each other out.
Okay, I think that's what I feel like that's what I did do this past week. In the last week, I was on calls and things came out, and then I heard your show Sunday and realized that I've been doing things wrong, and that I do and have want to make things right. I just didn't know if being apologetic was going to cancel out. I just didn't know the right way to go about turning my wrongs into rights.
Sometimes
and
your
that was one
apology
of the
is
things
weak.
that I brought.
Apology is cool. That's but an apology. You know what an apology is? That's going into somebody's house and wiping your feet off on their front mat first. That's all the apology is. You still got to ring the doorbell, have the door open, go inside, and then have the conversation. But sometimes people use an apology as the end-all, be-all. And that can be real weak. And trust me, when you're doing weak stuff like that, you're going to still feel convicted. And you're going to be like, but man, I apologize. Why am I still feeling awkward? Because you only did the first step. It's very easy to do something foul to somebody and to say, hey, I'm sorry for doing something foul to you. Thinking that that's going to be enough where you can now move on with your life. It doesn't work that way. You got to reverse it.
Right.
So sometimes you have to.
Think that.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
Go. No, I do think that I made progress in what happened last week, because I was speaking to a sister last week, and then I was just seeking Sister Michelle last week, and yesterday she made me smile because she said she listened to what I was saying, and so she grasped my energy and didn't take it in a wrong way, and so it made me happy to know that that she did, and let you know. And
what's that have to do with what
we're
talking about? Hold on a second. What's that got to do with what we're talking about?
Well, I guess it's just as an example of wanting to get clarification. Like, I did that right, and I don't feel the badness and weight from that, I felt like the weight was lifted after getting acknowledgement that that was okay. I guess what made me hit one was the fact that there are other people that I haven't been able to make the wrongs right with, and that's where I'm trying to, like you said, just reverse it and just kind of go back and revisit those places where I feel something uncomfortable, and then just go back and have that discussion. What
if you find out later that Sister Michelle is overly accommodating?
That came to my mind, so it still makes me remember or be mindful of what happened actually, so that I don't go feeling that way again.
Back up. Okay, if you find out later that Sister Michelle is overly accommodating and whatever she said to you yesterday shouldn't really have been said, then now your whole basis for feeling good and for smiling, all of that was off.
I hear what you're saying. And you say, well, if either way, I guess how I feel is that I feel good about moving forward from it and continuing with the process and continuing to go forward. Like you said, I hear what you're saying, like, because maybe I don't deserve her. I don't know if she forgiveness or I because that was somewhat the topic yesterday, like forgiving people, and that came up, and they're not being deserving of it. Is that kind of what you're connecting that with? Like, as far as maybe I wasn't deserving of.
Hy would you need to ask me if that's what I'm connecting it with if you already told me that you hear what I'm saying? But if you say I hear what you're saying, but that means you already understand me.
I want to be clear, I guess, more or less, that I am.
But you already said you were clear when you said I hear what you're saying.
Because
you weren't really clear on what I was saying. And what you were doing is you were missing what I was saying. That's why. Because what I said, you didn't think about it. You quickly dismissed it. And what you're doing is you're thinking out loud. Mm-hmm. You're saying, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but you're trying to maintain that same trajectory. Somebody did that on the phone yesterday on the show. Did you notice that yesterday on the show? Somebody was saying something and they were being given some information, but they would not move their pivot. They would not get off that trajectory. And they kept saying, yeah, I hear what you say. I understand you, but you don't understand me. You heard that, right?
Yes. Yes.
That's what you just did. You did the same thing just now.
Right. And then when you asked me, because before I said I hear what, when I said I hear what you're saying, I remember hearing what you. Please don't laugh at me.
You're doing something that's laughable.
Okay, you're right.
Are you at work right now?
No, I am not.
All right, so you're going to stop calling this show whispering, all right? Because you're sucking all the energy out of the show. I notice every time you call, you try to make it mature. We don't want to be mature. Okay, hey, how y'all doing it? No. Stay turned up.
I want to be, because, okay.
Georgina, okay, listen. No. Let me talk. Do not use other people to validate if you're doing right or wrong. Don't, Michelle says something that's good. That's just a cherry on the top. But if you're still in the right position or wrong position, especially because that was only one instance of something that happened between you and Michelle, whatever that was. And it really wasn't anything. But I know you're talking about something bigger and larger in your life that you've been doing or that you have done. And just in the way that you're responding to me should show you some clues. Every time I talk, you're like, right, but, and you're just skipping right over what I'm saying. So, and your question is not even clear. Whatever you asking right now, I guarantee you know, because you're all over the place because you're trying to defend a posture that you shouldn't be trying to defend. What I just said, that's what it is. listen. You do something wrong to somebody. First of all, think about the question you asked me, which was all over the place too. The initial question: how do you? I feel wrong by some of the things you say, but I feel guilty. But how do you deal with the feeling? But how do you? You asked like 4 different questions. No, don't start cooking now. See, this is what y'all do. When I start talking, now you want to go to the bath. Now you urinating. You want to start going to the bathroom and making all that noise in the background. Look at this.
I was just getting some more tea.
Why? Why are you doing that right now in this moment when you're supposed to be listening? Why would you choose to do that right now?
Because my cup was empty, and I wanted to be able to not be parched when I talk to you, because when you tell me that I'm talking soft or low or whatever.
So that's why you decided to start banging noise in the background now and get tea? That's why you did that? No, you did it for my benefit?
No, for mine. And just because, like I said, I want to engage, and the way you were saying to engage before and not be calm, and because like you were saying, I'm all over. No,
but like what I hold on, back up. Wait up. Don't worry, Kim will be back on. You could do them long girl stories with her. So here's a simple. You ready for the simple of it? You gotta listen. You're not listening. That's what your problem is. You don't listen. That's why when I started talking, you started making noise and fixing yourself with something else. That got nothing to do with you whispering. Because obviously I'm saying you whisper. I'm joking with you to try to keep it light because it's a heavy subject. But you don't listen. So even when something was pointed out to you, when you said the thing about Michelle, you're using Michelle as a deflection point not to deal with your actual issue by saying, well, she said something and it made me smile. So what? You smile. Who cares? So now you're a slave to your feelings. The ego stroking is everything for you now. You know that the issue still remains. And then when I point out, okay, well, what if she was wrong to say what she said? You said, right, I hear you. And then you kept going and then asked me about it afterwards. Meaning you just want to keep talking, but you don't want to listen. There's the root of the problem. Anything you say outside of that, I'm going to come back to that root. You don't want to objectively look at your problem. And points along the way, somebody says something nice, somebody says, sis, I love you, whatever, to make yourself feel like, okay, well, I'm doing the right thing, but you know within yourself you're not. And I already know it just by the way you interacted with me on this call.
The way that by me.
But I hear that, but I hear that, Chief. But what I'm saying,
I'm explaining more or less why what you're bringing up, why I'm doing it, what I wanted to say was that because I do know that I am all over the place, and I've made mention of that in different conversations that I've been on, and so I'm
You're doing the same thing the sister did yesterday. That's the same thing she did. After somebody would say something, she would then go on to explain herself first. And I said that in the beginning of the conversation, if anybody was listening, which is so rude. But you just did the same thing, but you did it in your nice voice, though. So a lot of people wouldn't have caught that. You just did the same thing.
I guess mostly. Okay, I apologize.
Do you think I know what I'm talking about? Here, let's do this. Let's make it easy for both of us. Do you think I know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Or am I missing some of the facts? Do I need more information to really make a more definitive statement?
Yes.
Okay, there we go.
So that, and I say yes because Maybe because it is that you're correct that I do like to talk. I feel always misunderstood, but it could be because I'm misunderstanding myself because I am all over the place. And like I said before, I do get that, and I'm trying to be calm about my.
Let me help you because you're saying two different things again. You're still. The question was, do you think I need more information to give you an intelligent answer? And you said yes, but now you're talking about something else.
I'm trying to give you the reason why I'm saying yes.
So if you need to give me the reasons why you're saying yes, if whatever I say you have an immediate response to, if you understand everything I'm saying, if you're already doing everything I'm saying, then there's really nothing I can do for you because you're already at my level or beyond.
Okay.
I came into it with the presumption that I was beyond your level. That's why I don't need as much information as you think you're giving. I need more information than you're actually picking up on. But I must be wrong in that presumption because you feel you need to thoroughly explain something to me in order for me to be able to comment. That means I'm not really what I say I am. Or you don't like to listen. And you certainly don't like male input.
I love to listen, and I do like your male input.
Okay, so I'm wrong on both counts.
Yeah.
Man, I'm just, whew. I'm just taking L's left and right on this call, huh? Break it down to me. What do I need to know so that I can be a better priest, a better chief, a better father, and a better man? Break it down to me what I'm missing here that I'm not picking up on.
With me, for this particular call, I think this is what I say with people when I talk to people is that I do talk, and I like to kind of full circle, and I was trying to give an example, and then also to go back to the question, which was because it's been what has been on my mind, what's made me call. One is being apologetic. Like, how do you apologize to someone? And is it right or wrong, good or bad to apologize? Because that was one of the things that Sister Michelle was speaking on, is that you said not to be apologetic. And so now I'm wondering, okay,
I didn't say
what
that.
do you do when you still have that? Well, this is what she said you said, is what I'm saying. She said in a call, which made
I don't remember her saying that I said not to be apologetic.
Well, that's how I interpreted it. She was saying about.
Then if your interpretation was off, then it might be possible that your premise is off.
However, that's what my question was, is to get that part clear, because I might have received that, from her, or got it in the wrong context, or got it correct, because it's still somewhat bothering me about how do I fix everything else with everyone else who I've wronged. I want to make things right. And like I was saying, at the time of the call, I was saying, like, well, once I'm supposed to be like, I'm sorry. And I want to say I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry if I rubbed you the wrong way. I'm sorry. And with looking at it deeper, like, hey, even when I spoke on it yesterday, because it's been lingering. And mostly, since you're on the phone, I wanted to ask you directly, since it was something I got from her. How do you be apologetic? Like, how that was initially what hailed the call, like what compelled me to press 1 to ask, like, okay, because it was someone else that I was engaging with in regards to spirituality or Christianity and different, because I had asked the question if people were ready to hear that God doesn't love them. And I had a dialogue with someone, and after listening to the show, while listening to the show, I realized like there's some things that I have to right from my wrongs, and how do I go about doing them, and how is one to be apologetic, or how do you live with that? Because I'm thinking, okay, now I can't say I'm sorry to nobody, but I gotta find out from you first, because like I said, it was an interpretation from what she was saying, and maybe I interpreted it wrong, maybe she said it wrong, I don't know. I'm not really trying to go there. I'm just trying to go to the root, which is you, and ask you, how do I go about doing the right thing when I've wronged someone, and because the confusion was there as far as, do I apologize? Am I apologetic? Because it seems like I'm supposed to be, like I should. And like I was just mentioning, that the sister Michelle did come to me yesterday at the end of the call and say that she did, find balance with what I had mentioned, that I thought might have rubbed her the wrong way.
That has to do with you disrespecting your sister's religion, your Christian sister that you're talking about. Because you are talking about your sister, right?
When I was talking to Sister Michelle, that was
I know, but what does the situation with Michelle have to do with your Christian sister who you've offended?
Okay, going back a little bit, because the person I was talking about God was my sister. However, I feel like I didn't make a connection with my sister and me disrespecting her religion, and her cutting me off. I think that because I didn't like that she cut me off, and hearing that Sister Michelle did cut off her family, I think when I engaged and spoke on my sister doing that to me, I think I kind of aimed like that hurt towards her, doing it without saying her name and without saying. I just was, I kind of stressed on the cutting people off part, like that's a choice, and I remember being strong and saying that and thinking to myself, like, that's wrong for people to do because it happened to me, but I'm not here to tell people what's right, wrong, good, or bad. I'm just here, even though my emotions might take on a role with the words that I say. And your question about my sister, what did I do? I think mostly I did just let her know.
I didn't ask what you did. I didn't ask you that.
Okay. Can you tell me again what you were wanting to know about my sister? What did it have to do with it? Is that what you were asking? I forget.
I know you forget. Well, this is a danger. I spoke about this before. This is a danger that comes in when you have students who are espousing things to one another as if they're factual and they don't really know for sure. And sometimes, and I just spoke about this, sometimes collectively you can have a bunch of people with the same problem and they'll affirm each other's response to the problem, even if it's a dysfunctional response. Because, and they'll give each other high fives. And then now, especially, I know you did. So now, especially when it's amongst women, it becomes especially dangerous because now when a man comes in and does what he's supposed to do, the man's supposed to teach. He's supposed to give information and guidance like I just did. The women become very resistant to it because it doesn't feel as good or sound as good as what their sister friend just said. You actually have, here we go with the teapots again. Right.
I just put it down on the glass. My
but you didn't do that when you. Why did you do that when you were talking?
Because I couldn't take a sip. So when I take a sip,
it was quiet when you were
set
talking.
It back down. Because I'm not sipping while I'm talking.
Yeah, I feel you. You're right. You're right.
Set my cup down.
Yeah, you're right. I'm wrong. You're right. Yeah, you got that. You should go back and listen to this show one day.
I will. I do.
Okay.
I will.
All
and
right.
I apologize.
And I want the apology handwritten.
Okay.
Okay, because it's coming. I know it's coming. Because you're out of this galaxy right now. But you're gonna listen, and you're like, oh my goodness, I was like that. So yeah,
I hear it every time I do. And
here we go.
That's why I really try to be calm in that talking. But my lessons come very swift. They do come very swift, and I do hear
you should have filled in today for Kim. Can you fill in some days and do the show?
Yes.
Would you be willing to do Chief Speaks on Sundays?
No, I like listening to you.
You know everything I know. To be honest with you,
I know. I don't know everything that you know. I don't know.
You see what your immediate response is? Your response is always to say, right, I know, I hear you.
No, I don't know everything that you know. And to be honest with you, I didn't like at first listening to Kim and Sister Michelle when I first got on the line. When they first invited me, I didn't. I wanted to hear you.
So here's
you
what we're
only.
Saying. Yeah, but now you're hearing me directly, and it doesn't feel so good. It's different when you just hearing me and you can interpret
really does.
Whatever.
I want to hear the truth. I like getting checked by you because I need to be better. I want to be better.
Clearly, well, you haven't gotten checked.
That you see.
Georgina, you haven't gotten checked. You might think you're getting checked by me, but you're not, because I don't let women do all this talking when I'm talking. Like, you would have already been put in your place by now. So I'm actually really just playing with you and letting you talk, and really I'm letting the audience hear you, and I'm letting you have a record so that you can come back later and hear yourself. But this is not you being checked, because I definitely don't let women go off like this on me and all that. Right? I hear you right now. I don't allow that. You'd have been real quiet. If you were really being checked, I would have made you pull out a notepad and write down what I'm saying and then run it back to me. So you haven't been checked. You're just being spoken to. So the actual for it, do you realize I answered that?
Your phone broke up when you said you were asked.
I said the actual question that you called for, do you realize I answered that?
Yes, right away.
Okay. So now you know how to, or if you should be apologetic or not, right?
Yes.
So what you gonna do?
I'm gonna write you a letter.
Me? I don't want you to write me a letter.
Well, you want my apology in writing?
No, I don't want your apology. I said you're going to end up apologizing, but I said when you do, I want it in writing. Because the apology doesn't mean anything right now, because you don't really see what you're doing. I said listen to it later. And when I mean later, I mean maybe a year from now. The show will still be up. I want you to listen to a lot more growth and development, and then I really want you to hear yourself. Right now, you're going to just think you should do it because I said you should. It doesn't mean anything. It's hollow and empty. That's why I said earlier about the question about apologies, it's got to be a full alignment from soul to body. And if it's not that, then it's really not worth anything. It's very hollow. And people can feel the hollowness of it. But don't worry. When you listen to this a year from now, you're going to say, oh my goodness, who was that woman? You'll hear it. You're struggling. All right. Good work, Georgina. Good work.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. This is what I was talking about earlier. Everybody comes in at their own level. And you got to sometimes let them make their mistakes so that they can get it out. So if she would have started doing what she was doing, as soon as I'm talking, yeah, right, yeah, she's not listening at all, and I checked her immediately, then she wouldn't be able to feel the effect of doing that. And I know you're still on the line, Georgina, so I'm even giving you the explanation of what I just did. So by allowing you to get it out, allowing you to, I'm going to even say ramble for the amount of time that I did, now you'll be able to look back later as you start to grow and develop, and you'll have a different standard and say, wow, that's where I was. But if I would have cut that off immediately and say, oh, wait a minute, you're not even listening. And your question makes no sense. You're asking like 5 different things, because that's not really even the question that you want to ask, which I still know, by the way, Jacine. That wasn't even your real question. That wasn't the real question. I know that. The question. Okay, but I didn't address that publicly. But that wasn't your real question. That was just, that's where all the words and the ums were. Well, and that's where all of that came from. Because you were filtering what you really, really wanted to express. You didn't really express it. So you got to get all the toxins, get all the junk out, all the fake questions, all the I let you just flush that out of your system so we can get to the real stuff, which we probably will get to in another year. And just like Sister Michelle, who's also on the line, she might be saying, wait a minute, I didn't say that. I said it like this. So now you and your sister can discuss it, and you can finally have a conversation about how you listen and the difference between listening and hearing. It's 2 totally different things. And eventually you'll learn to listen, and you'll learn to separate between what you're hearing and what's being said. And that when you develop the skill of actually listening, you know. But yeah, good stuff. Even that whispering you do. You whisper so much because you know the things that you're saying are not your real words. So because you don't want, you whisper like you don't want anybody to hear you. That comes from something else too. I don't want to tell your old stuff on it. Maybe one day we get a chance to talk differently. I'll break that down. Why you talk like that? Why you so much and everything, you know. But you're working on it, and you know, at the end of the day, who could say something about somebody who's working on their problem? You know, that's why, like, I value and I enjoy and I appreciate all of you guys, man, because you working on it, especially those of you who are 30 plus, 40 plus, and you're coming into this and saying, you know what, put yourself together, I want to work on this. How could you not honor that? How could you not honor that? You know, because at that age, you could just coast out. One more call. 917 area code. 917, you're on. 917, you're on.
Greetings, Chief. My phone was muted.
Yeah, this is Sister from yesterday, right?
It is.
What's happening?
I have a question. I just have a question, and I asked Brother Dietrich about it, his thoughts on it. But what is your take on names? Like, from my perspective, even down to my kid's name, all the power and all of the command to me is in a name. So I kind of feel like if I introduce myself and you don't respond to me back with my name, I'm Janita, by the way, that you didn't hear me. So I don't really respond in a way that I would respond to someone who actually knows my name.
Why are you asking me this question, Janita?
Because when I called in yesterday, I'm new to this group. So the first thing I did is introduce myself, and I said my name, but there was only 2 women who responded with Janita, and then they began to talk. So I felt like a certain level of real, genuine communication because of that.
That's a different question and a different premise. Hold on, sister. That's a different question and premise than what you initially asked when you first got on the phone just now. So you asked me a loaded question. About what you feel
about names? Okay.
Yeah, that's a loaded question.
Oh, is it too loaded? Is it too loaded?
No, it's not too loaded. It's too disrespectful because you're insulting my intelligence.
Okay, and how is it? I'm saying, is it too loaded that I?
You shouldn't ask a loaded question. What you should have did is explain the premise. I knew what the premise was, but you should have explained it and said, in light of that, this is what I'm feeling. Is that correct or incorrect? but you're asking one question, which is really a setup for a larger statement. That's not fair.
Let's be fair. In light of that, right?
Did you hear what I just said?
Yeah, and I'm going to repeat it back to you, so it will definitely be something that you feel comfortable with.
Hold on, stop. Stop right there. Stop right there. I know you used to doing that to males, but a man is not going to allow that. And I'm blaming brother. He should have prepped you better than what he had, than how he has prepped you. All right, so soften up if you want to talk to me. We're not doing that. Those low-level condescending shots that you were sending at everybody yesterday. I don't do that. We can talk like man and woman. Would
you feel better if I just dismiss myself?
It's not about how I feel. It's about your behavior right now.
The reason I'm asking because
in a respectful way.
Okay, this is your forum, and by me being new, the other people have communication here, and I don't. So usually when I talk to people, I just meet them where they are. I'm not sure how this particularly works. I don't know exactly what approach, or I only met Brother Diedrich for a day or two, so I want to take that blame off of him because
the blame is on Brother Diedrich.
He didn't have a chance to do anything.
You even did this yesterday, and he didn't stop you yesterday when you were doing it. So I'm putting the blame on him because a man's job is to guide and direct and provide light, and he didn't do that. So it's his fault. I'm not putting it on you because, like you said, You're new to this experience. You don't know how to purport yourself, and that's understandable. He should have told you, like, listen, the way you were coming was you were a little bit too rough.
Okay. So now that I'm here with you now, what would be the proper way to approach you and ask this particular question that I'm trying to ask?
I just shared it with you. Okay. And we only have 9 minutes left before it cuts off. So, I shared it with you. And here's Dietrich. Dietrich's calling in too. So we're going to put him on. What's up, Dietrich?
Greeting. I'm listening. Peace, brother. Peace. It's, that's spicy. But okay. With regard as to what happened yesterday and what currently happened today, like, the reason that I didn't say nothing is because I wanted her to get it all out, and that way she can see how we communicate. I was feeling about her, like how you said, you wanted the young lady to hear herself. I wanted her to say whatever she had to say. That way it won't seem like I brought somebody in and now I'm defending them while they wrong. So
no,
like, in my
that
mind,
was the wrong way to do it, brother. No, that was the wrong way to do it.
You're right. Absolutely right.
What you should have did, because what you ended up doing, hold on a second, brother. What happened was because of the way she was communicating yesterday, she created a more hostile environment than need be. So now you exposed, she's saying she's under you. So that means you protect her. So if she does something that creates hostility and the hostility comes back, you're supposed to take that. You're her shield. You're not supposed to leave her out there to take them shots. So that's why I'm saying that's you. I'm blaming you. There's several reasons, but I'm putting that on you. So no, it's not about her just getting it out. Let her get it out with you, and you explain it to her. But don't let her come into a public forum and speak in that way. Because a lot of things you were saying yesterday were off, and you'll learn that eventually because you are here to learn and you're working with teachers to learn. So you never expressed that you were perfect and you knew everything. But there's a way to even respond to input. And Dietrich knew it. He knew that it was your responses were condescending and harsh, and he should have said something. So that's not the way you do that. And I would never do that. You, as my student, Dietrich, I would never put you in that position. If we were in a situation and you didn't necessarily have the navigation or wherewithal in that space, in most instances, I would just say, Dietrich, don't say anything. If I know you're in an environment where you really don't know how to roll, then the conversations that need to be had that are that intimate and that in depth, you and I will have together.
You're right. That's what I got to work on. That right there is being able to, and that's the next step for me in my consciousness, is knowing how to present people to information and in situations in different cultures that they can actually function in. So everything you're saying is absolutely right. I take full responsibility for that. I just didn't know how to go about doing it. And like I said, I'm gonna, everything you're saying, you hit it right on the head. And that's just something I just have to suck up and be like, put my head down and be like, I say, you right. You're absolutely right. And that's something that I have to work on within myself, because that's something I'm presenting with. I have a lot of people who asking me, where do I get what I'm saying from? So, like, I'm the type of person where I'm like, look, come listen to this brother. This is where I get this from. This is where I get this perspective from. And
yeah, but here's another thing.
Yeah.
Let me get you with that, because I feel like a broken record now, Dietrich. I've been telling you for the longest time, start your own situation. Somebody asks you, where you getting this information from? I'm getting it from this brother, but here, you can get with me and I'll teach you. You are a leader in your own right, and you're going to have to own that. That's why I'm saying what I'm saying to you publicly on air, because with great responsibility comes more discipline. You have a great responsibility because you have a lot of talent, a lot of gifts, a lot of insight. So I'm going to give it to you raw. This is, you did that wrong. And you won't do it again. I know you won't. It won't happen again. And the sister may not completely understand it, and I don't expect her to. She's not required to. You are. Why? Because she submitted to you. And submission just means coming under the plan. She came under your plan. So this is a lesson in leadership, and we all go through it. I made my mistakes. I still make mistakes. And I had elders who checked me and said, oh, wait a minute. You didn't do that one right. That one's going to backfire on you. You got a sister here who's got a very strong personality, and I know why you don't check her, because you're slightly afraid of her. I get it, but she's looking for that, because most men, you could tell she dominates. That's why she speaks that way. That's why she's condescending like that, because she's around individuals who don't pick up on it and who don't know how to tell her, chill, stop, don't speak to me that way, and know how to say it with authority. So that's a part of you coming up to your throne and being able to say, hold on, Janita, stop. We'll talk about that later.
Thank you.
And her respecting that. Okay, and so you have to mean it. It can't be because you're emulating what I'm saying, but you got to really mean it. And that comes to develop a relationship. I'm not going to beat up on her, but I'm just saying, hold up. Now, don't do that with me. You do that with the other ones. Don't do that with me. Because also, if she does that with me, I can't teach her anything after that. Because she might say, yeah, that brother Chief, he's knowledgeable. He knows this, he knows that. But inside, what she's saying to herself, he's a faggot. He's a punk. Because I walked all over him. I stepped all over that brother. So he can't really be about all that Chief talk. So I really don't need to listen. And something I may say to her one day may save her son's life. So I have to make sure the protocol of man and woman communication is never broken. You check that stuff as soon as you see it, Dietrich. Because there may come a situation where you tell her to go left, she wants to go right, and going right may end her life. That's your job as being her protector. When a woman says, I'm under you, that means you're probably not going to be friends anymore. The whole nature of the relationship is going to change when she says that. She's not going to like you as much as she liked you before. Because you're going to have to put your foot down and be the heavy at times when you may not want to. Like she's not going to like me that much anymore after today. But it's okay.
I like you. I love you. I love you. I love
sure you do.
I love
Y'all
it.
say that on the phone.
Oh, I'm an honest person. I love it.
You know what, though, Chief? I'm so glad that you told me that, because you know why I have a problem with that, and you brought this to the surface, and I'm glad.